Welcome to the May 14th, 2025 Lowell School Committee budget hearing. Please join us to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Bahu.
Here.
Mr. Conway.
Here.
Ms. Del Rossi.
Here.
Ms. Doherty.
Here.
Mr. Lay. Ms. Martin.
Here.
Mayor Rourke.
Here.
6 present.
We'll start off, we'll just do the permission to enter first, since hopefully it'll be a lot quicker than the budget. 4.1, permission to enter out-of-district sped busing in the lease for the Dr. Janice 80 Day School. I need a motion to approve the permission by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Rossi. Any questions? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Bahu.
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Ms. Del Rossi.
Yes.
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Mr. Lay. Ms. Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Rourke.
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent.
Back to Section 3, Special Order Business, 3.1, Public Budget Hearing, revised. Those who want to speak, the budget, open the public hearing now. Any speakers?
I don't see him.
Wasn't expecting to speak, but I will. Michael Sheehan, live at 97 Forest Street, Lowell, Mass. Lived in Lowell for my whole life. I've worked for the school department for the last 30 years as a school custodian. So I stand in front of you today to express my concerns about any potential budget cut that we might have. $4 million, I think, is quite extensive. I think anybody that lives in Lowell has seen their tax bill go up, has seen their appraisals go up. So I would result that in a lot more money that the city is receiving this year and coming forward. Over the last couple of years, the school committee has spent many monies, our monies for the school department on city projects, i.e. looking over at the Rogers schools, all the HVAC, why we spend our money that should be going to the school department. So I'd like to urge you not to make any cuts and to stand up against the city. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Laura Ortiz, resident of Lowell. The school has always been underfunded, and it's always been kind of sad. And although we hugely appreciate the staff and the school committee and the superintendent's office and everyone else for trying to do what they can with the tiniest pile of money, it is outrageous that the city, with its management problems, is cutting $4 million from the school after it uses the money on other things. These students are under a federal desegregation order. They're required to achieve free appropriate public education. And it is beyond inexcusable and unforgettable that you are cutting the minority access to free appropriate public education. I've attended multiple IEP and 504 meetings that clearly show that the district is not even allowing IEPs, probably because they knew that they weren't going to get this $4 million. And you sue them. I mean, you're the school committee. We saw it during the Cowley debate, and you all got a new attorney, and you basically did whatever you wanted, and we ask you to do that again. These students deserve all this funding, and I don't mean to get excited. It's just that it's outrageous. The school shouldn't have to pay the price if the city can't manage its money. Get an independent audit, ask the federal government for help. Spend the money on the students that you're required to. I mean, right now, although I think it's $25,000 per student versus Boston 30,000, but what is this gonna drop it back down to 14,000? You have a fiduciary duty to ensure that every single student, including from the first to the last day, the 1st to the 12th grade, accesses free appropriate public education, not just special needs. And I'm going to tie into the busing, and I don't know what the time clock is, but if the state and the federal government needed to give you more money for the busing, if that's what's part of the problems, then you should have sued the federal government and the state, because the state certainly mismanaged its money. And instead of welcoming the governor and not addressing the fact that you're just about to cut $4 million, I mean, who's going to advocate if not the school committee? You don't want to listen to parents. You don't want to, certainly don't want to listen to teachers, although this lovely man behind me has advocated forever for them. And I have tremendous respect. And although, my children years ago went to a phenomenal school with an incredible principal that actually knew how to split the money, you can't split the money when you're losing $4 million. You might be able to on a paraprofessional or something, but there's zero reason that this city is cutting $4 million after all of the money that we don't know where you put with all that COVID money, and after the zero explanations, the law office that won't give up any public records when it comes to finances. There is zero reason that your school committee is not hiring a different attorney, and with an incredible attorney, Dr. Hall, suing the hell out of the city so that you can fund the schools appropriately. Thank you for letting me speak. And again, it's no disrespect to anyone. I thank you for your time.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Paul George is President UTL, representing teachers, paraprofessionals, custodians, and CAP workers. This year, I was just looking at the books. I was looking at the money projections coming in from the state. There's going to be $15 million more money coming in from the state for Chapter 70. Now, where that money goes is largely dependent upon you and how much you want to fight. First of all, I want to say, I wanted to come and congratulate you because I watched the school committee meeting last week and every one of you spoke up and said, this isn't right, we shouldn't be doing this. Certainly, if you're going to be informed about taking major cuts, it should have been months ago, it shouldn't have been a week ago. I mean, I didn't even have an opportunity to tell folks when these hearings were going to be in, How much money in the last 2 years did we spend on modular classrooms with money that could have been used to service kids? But it wasn't used to service kids, it was used to house kids. And that's facilities. I've complained about this forever. I guess it's not new to you, some of the arguments I heard last week. Certainly the classroom has to be held intact. Great work is being done. Underperforming school numbers are shrinking, but we have to keep that momentum going, and we can't do it by absorbing $4 million. I mean, if you look at the expenditures that we made for the STEM, was it 5 units? It cost what, $5 million for something, $450 million? You look at the 2 more modulars that we put out at Colley, because Colley hasn't been kept up in years. They're afraid to put kids underneath the stands because they're afraid the stands are going to come down. So instead, we're buying more modulars. How about the Jeanne d'Arc School? $2.4 million. School department paid for it. It's a facility. That money could have been used to put into services for kids. The teachers understand very well, need additional servicing. They need the help to get through the pandemic trauma and all the rest of that. And they're doing a hell of a job, but they're not doing it with a hell of a lot of help. You can go into any one of our schools. The high school is going to be, the church on the hill. I mean, it's going to be a model, a great building. I was in it the other day, was in there a few times. All I want to say is, I would suggest you don't make any cuts for anybody in any teaching or assistant teaching position to support the classroom teacher. And don't make any cuts on that at this point. My understanding is the city council meeting that went last night, it went fairly positively with some suggestions to the city manager to adjust his books and do what needs to be done. $17 million more in student aid directly from the state solves these problems if you can even keep 25% of it. It's not unreasonable in any way, but it is unreasonable to bring it at this time before you to have to make $4 million in cuts in a few days. It makes no sense. If you make any cuts at all, please just protect the classroom. That's where the work is always done. That's where the difference is made. I'd ask you to do that. Also, keep in mind, we've put $13, $14 million into facilities over the last couple of years. When does that come back? When We talk about partnerships. Is it a partnership? Mr. Conway said yesterday. Is it a partnership if you're only a partner when they want something from you, but you're a partner, but when you want something from them? I suggest you do the same, use the same, have the same commitment that you made last week as all of you spoke against these cuts. Don't start absorbing some of that stuff at this point until there's further discussion with the city manager, further explanation. And quite frankly, I think we need an independent auditor representing the school department to look at the kinds of things they charge off as maintenance of effort. It's absurd. There's no accountability. I could say I came in, I'm a plumber, and I was fixing a bubbler for a week. Does anybody know? Does anybody know the truth? The point is, verification is important, and there's no verification. We simply take it as gospel because they write it down. With $17 more million, we can't have the same budget, at least that we had last year. They're doing their part and asking all of us to do ours. Thank you.
Hi. Oi, tudo bem? Quantas pessoas aqui é brasileiro, portuguesa, pode entender o que eu estou falando? Nobody can understand what I'm saying. How much percentage of our kids in school speak a different language? I know Wendy, I know Liam. My kids went to both of their schools. I have a child now with the Cardinal who's been denied an IEP twice. Mary, Sula knows her, our new special ed director. Mary went through the Lowell Public Schools and then went residential. We cannot afford these cuts. We all know that. But at the same time, I respect the teachers union. We need to focus on the classrooms, our children that are from other countries, our children that are from this country, our children with special needs. And we could probably bring kids back in district, which I know Sula would love to do. I know that the 80, which we were talking about buying the school, which Lowell City Hall should have been buying that and not the school department. I have had children in this district for 21 years, and I am discouraged. I'm discouraged at our scores. I know we have fantastic teachers when they're able to do fantastic things. The teachers at the Cardinal have small classrooms. They're phenomenal. They can deal with my son who has ADHD. When you throw those kids into 25 and plus that have other children with special needs and are bilingual, it falls apart. And the reason I'm talking about this is because I would love across the board that the teachers get paid well. Our administrators, I'm gonna tell you, over $100,000 for all of these administrators, it don't look too pretty. I'm really disappointed that somehow you guys weren't able to get that down, because now here we are. But like I said, this is maybe getting closed caption in English. Excuse me. Excuse me. Thank you. Maybe this is getting closed caption in English, definitely not getting closed caption in her language. But ninguém está entendendo o que eu estou falando em português. Nós precisamos das pessoas que moram aqui, quem tem filhos aqui. Quem tem filhos aqui. Aqui, na frente, falando com vocês, eu estou muito triste, porque não tem ninguém aqui. Eu quero vocês trabalhar para ver quem estou falando agora. Porque as pessoas, quem tem filhos aqui na escola, precisam trabalhar para entender o que vocês estão falando. E tem várias escolas que estão fazendo isso muito bem. Então, vocês precisam ter as pessoas na comunidade aqui. Vocês precisam ter essa reunião em outra língua. So I know you're not looking at me, Mayor, but you need to have the meeting where everyone can understand it. Because our children are from Brazil, are from many different Hispanic countries, and there's no one here about the budget today. And we need more money. And I would love to collaborate with everyone and find out. I would love to see at the Moody School that there's not just one crossing guard where there's 4 entrances, and the Pine has 2 crossing guards and the school is behind. I would love the Moody School to have at minimum 2 crossing guards so that the parents and the students can get across the street safely. The same with the McAuliffe. That is a nightmare as well. There's so many places that we can do better, and I'm not understanding in our budget why the top is so heavy and our children are being left behind. Our GPA scores are very low, and we have UMass Lowell here, and our Lowell High should be as great as UMass Lowell. Thank you so much for letting me speak. Muito obrigada. Estou aqui para todo mundo, e I'm gonna finish by saying I live in Lowell. You guys know where I live. I pay these great taxes, and I hope every single one of you here on this committee lives in Lowell, because it's really disheartening that people with money can be on this committee and make policy, pass bills, pass budgets, and not live here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so, yeah, this is because they voted on the bottom line.
All right, next up, we need, here's a public hearing, 3.1 revised. Need a motion to vote for the action of necessity because the school committee will be voting on their own bottom line figure by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Lay. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Ms. Del Rossi?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Lay? Ms. Martin? Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
7 yeas.
All right, page 11, 1110, the school committee, the total amount for approval is $287,000. I need a motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the bottom line figure of $287,000 by Mr. Conway, seconded by Mr. Rossi. Are there any questions? Ms. Martin.
So can I ask, as we go through this process, can you kind of give a heads up when we need to transfer pages in? That would be great. So as we go through, I mean, I'm looking at a table of contents, then we've got the first page with the changes, the 118. So none of these changes, none of these pages at the front have any changes to them?
Yes, no, those pages do not have changes. What was sent out on Friday were replacement pages for your binder. So the pages you received on Friday were meant to be inserted and replaced. They were revised as per school committee comments last Wednesday.
So but the only updates that happened were in this section that I'm looking at.
That's correct,
From
and they're
page
marked with
118
revision. Yeah, they should be marked at the bottom with revision and the date.
Mr. Rossi.
Okay, so then, and just one last question, I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah.
And then just to go back, so this page 182, which is the one you gave us another copy of tonight? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm understanding this. So this isn't really the tiered response then, this is something that was already in the budget before, and you just have updated it or whatever, but it's not what had initially been asked for?
Ms. Martin, I'm sorry, I couldn't understand the question. Do you mind repeating?
So my question would be, what the copy that we received tonight of this form right here, with the 3 categories, admin, classroom, other additions that happened during last year. So this isn't meant to be a response to what I had asked for. This
No.
is just an update of what had already existed.
Correct.
Okay.
I can give you a response, however, if that's helpful.
I love responses.
Okay, thank you. So there are a number of updates, and I can, when you deem appropriate, I can explain as much as I can. Ms. Martin, I believe, asked for tiers. And so our idea around the tiers was that the first to be replaced would be school positions, primarily paraprofessionals and tutors, but school positions. Second tier would be positions at central office, and third tier would be everything else. So in general, those are the 3 tiers that we're working with, if funding is restored.
So what you mean, so by everything else, do you mean there's anything that was added in 24, 25?
What I'm referring to is that on this document,
Yep.
it outlines the cuts on the left. At the lower left, there are school-based positions in there, and that we would restore them first. That's
Yeah.
the first tier of restoration if we have further funds. Second tier, we would restore positions from central office that are in the upper left. Third tier, anything that's not a position could be then restored.
But I mean, you have some positions on this that third area.
I beg your pardon?
There are positions in that third area. Include psychologists, sped paras, school coordinator,
Right.
math coordinator.
Understood. We're not intending to add anything, except that some of the additions that are positions are required. So, for example, special education paraprofessionals, and I see a speech and language assistant and so on. Those are positions that are needed. We're not trying to increase the budget by adding positions so much as that they're sort of required to provide services to students. Most of the other ones in the addition columns are literally, so for example, health insurance, we've added over $1.5 million. We want to show the committee that that's an addition. Again, that's a required addition. We're just trying to be transparent about what's going up.
So that addition, the health insurance, that's the projected addition for FY 25, 26.
Correct. Correct. So it's not the total amount of expense, but it's the amount
The
that has
addition.
gone up over last year. Yes.
Okay. So then, like, when I look at the actual positions that are listed in here, are these positions that were in place for this current school year and will be moving forward into next year, or are they additions that you're projecting for next year?
Additions that we're projecting for next year.
So they're not increases that happened during this current year?
Correct.
Mr. Rossi? I'm sorry, all set?
Fine.
Yeah, Mr. Rossi, then Ms. Doherty.
Just for a point of clarification, on the pages that are basically labeling like superintendent of schools and so forth, and then when it goes into the individual part further on where we got the pages for revision, starting on 118, should these amounts for like superintendent of schools be the same in the general fund that it is where it's like listed under your actual name?
So
Or is that with an increase, like
When
the
the-
actual increase?
when the mayor appointed us to page 11, that is the beginning of the budget books or line by line positions. If you refer to page 118, that's a listing of current people in positions and their salaries.
Current salaries, right
Right.
now? Okay.
Sorry.
In the 24-25 year, not the 25-26 year?
That's correct.
Yes.
I'm sorry, so that's the replacement that we received. The one we initially had showed the 3% increase, so that would have been the projection for next
That's
year.
correct. It's been corrected.
So,
It's
real quick,
ridiculous.
It's the top of the pages say FY 25, 26 staff salaries.
Yeah,
So that's this upcoming.
it would be next fiscal
Right,
year.
not this one.
I was having difficulty hearing a few moments ago, and I'm sorry for that confusion. Let me have Dr. Pinto give you a more thorough explanation.
Thank you. So the staff salary, starting on page 118, I'd like to refer you to page 169. So page 169 has the notes that are relevant to the committee right now, or notes that'll provide some clarification. So you'll note, this is salaries for the FY 26 year. So,
Start on page 118.
yeah, that's correct. So I just want to make sure that the notes that are relevant to you and to these salaries that are listed here are on page 169. So page 169 is also marked with revision 1 and dated 5/9/2025.
That's the old one in your book, the one that you got this weekend that you don't have. Sorry.
169.
So on the notes that are listed there, it notes that school committee salaries remain unchanged. Salaries for the superintendent, assistant superintendents, and principals include increases in accordance with individual employment contracts for FY26. Salaries for UTL, LSAA, SEIU, and unaffiliated staff are based on the school committee approved bargaining agreements, and those increases were 3.5%. Projected salaries include the mid-year increase, and therefore they may differ from the annual rates shown on the CBA salary grids. The staffing list in this budget represents a snapshot of personnel as of FY25 and includes anticipated placements for the FY26 year. So budget line items are based on fair student funding average salaries and may not correspond directly to the individuals listed. Staff who are split funded or supported through grant offsets are shown as full FTEs in a single section of the staffing list for consistency. So those are the assumptions that underpin this section.
But there are names of employees that are in this booklet you have, that we have, that their job has not been funded for the next year.
So we've tried to make those adjustments for positions that are not being repeated or were recommended for decrease in the budget book itself. So in the line-by-line sections, you'll see that we've decreased the position and decreased the corresponding salary.
So I'll ask one more time. This list we have in front of us of positions and names in those positions, is this for this year right now or for next year?
So
Because
we
there
will-
are names here, Mr.
Yes.
Dr. Pinto, that are on this list for FY 25-26, that the jobs are not funded.
So that's correct, Mr. Mayor. So the list, though, is a snapshot in time. So nothing's been finalized yet. The budget hasn't been finalized, hasn't been approved. School committee has not approved to finalize the budget, and so we provided a snapshot of all the people that are in place for FY25. That's as of the date of this printing, and what their salary would be for the upcoming FY26 year.
I don't think that's correct, sir. Ms. Doherty, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to go back to our meeting last week because I think we had some specific requests for information that I feel we need to have before we can move forward. I think the community needs to know. So I know Ms. Martin had a motion asking for the tiered approach, which I guess page 182 is your example of the tiered approach, right? So the positions that are from schools would be your first ones to keep. And then the positions above that from central office would be your second ones to keep. That's the two-tiered approach. Okay, it's not really what I had expected. I thought we were going to, do the 3 tiers as her motion asked for. I had asked for a response from the city about how they're going to come up with this extra. Really, it comes out to be the $4 million in cash that we don't get if they keep us reduced at $10 million instead of $14 million, and the extra $4 million that the state is expecting the city to pay as their share would all be now moved to maintenance of effort, correct? And so I'm looking for information about how they're going to come up with that number. And was it 58 million? Is that what okay, so last year's maintenance of effort was 44 million? I'm talking ballpark.
Yeah, in general, yes. In general, the net school spending is partly cash and partly maintenance of effort. If the cash amount is 10 million for next year, then the maintenance of effort would be roughly 58 million.
So I don't think, that's how it's played out in Lowell, and it's played out that way for the last 20-something years, because I think at one point the city was paying 25 million in cash. So whenever the state says, guess what, Lowell, we're going to give you more money because your students have these needs, right? The city, but you need to contribute more, your minimum contribution, and the city moves a bunch of that over to maintenance of effort, because we can't hire staff with maintenance of effort. Maintenance of effort is shoveling the driveways, right? Maintaining our buildings. So I need that information. And can your administration tell me when was the last time we actually reviewed what falls under maintenance of effort with the city?
2007.
2007.
That's correct.
Okay, so maybe it's time for that review again. So I need something from the city, that's what we asked for. You know, how are you gonna come up to 58 million? What is that gonna look like? And then the other report we had asked for, the mayor was looking for a list of all the new positions. Is that here? And I didn't see it because
Yes.
it's not clear.
So you have that, Ms. Doherty, on your desk. It's listed at the top as a preliminary list. It was more complicated to produce than you might imagine.
Okay.
Different positions are counted differently in different budget books in the past.
So this is it.
That's it, yes. Sometimes the auditors from the state would, or Powers and Sullivan would recommend that a different code be used, and then the position is listed differently in one budget book to another. There wasn't time to do a proper, thorough review. We also didn't want to show up tonight without anything.
Okay.
So this is what we've got for you that is preliminary. We believe it's accurate. But, you know, if we looked at a book and said, well, this could be in this category instead of that category, that's possible.
Right.
We're not, we just wanted to list this preliminary because we haven't had enough opportunities to go back on it. And one other detail about this page, there are some positions for which there are blanks under, say, 2020-21 or 2021-22. We just didn't have sufficient information to be confident about the figure from those years. So that's why some of them are blank.
Okay, so I think that would be good information, and I appreciate if you need more time to do that. But it's confusing the way it is, because I'll look at, let's say, elementary teachers. 208 elementary teachers in 2021, 208 in 24-25. So that's clearly not, that number stays the same for the last 5 years.
Right. So if some numbers stay the same. We have the same number of elementary classrooms over the last 5 years. Some school somewhere didn't get an additional wing where we added 5 more teachers, right? But we may have added a special ed class, and that's counted differently. But if you think about all the elementary schools we have in the city and all the classroom spaces that they have, they add up to 208 classrooms, and it's been the same for the last 5 years.
Right. So if the report is supposed to be specifying, these are the new positions we added over the last 5 years.
I can help with that, if I may.
Right. I think it would be cleaner to just focus on those, and when you have the information.
I understand, but I also think it's possible that you have the information in front of you. Can I give an example of, if you point to the line with mainstream paras? If you notice, 5 years ago, there were 186 of them. And then you can trace across how that number changed through what we might call the ESSER years and so on. In 23-24, they had increased to 240 of them. So that you can tell that the number of mainstream paras increased considerably. Now, you notice last spring, we reduced 15 paraprofessionals, so that from that year to this current year, we went down to 225. So we've gone down. You could also look at the 225, which is the current number, and go back to the start. And you'll notice, you say, we've added 39 paraprofessional positions. So I understand it could be clearer, but the information is here.
Got it.
If you want to know that.
Okay, thank you. And then just one more thing, sorry. Another piece of information that I thought would be really good, and I don't remember who asked for it. It might have been Ms. Martin. Just kind of a compilation of, I mean, I know the earlier speaker, Mr. George, has mentioned 13 million or something. What is the number that this committee, or it might not have just been every member here, what is the number that the schools have contributed toward facilities? Like, we know about the Jeanne d'Arc, we just bought that, but there were a lot of other things. We know about the portables, but to really look and say, this has been our attempt to try to be good partners with the city and stepping over what's our responsibility, which was facilities, providing the facilities. So I would really appreciate getting that number so that we can look back and say, we've spent this much on facilities, and I really want to look at, if we can't get the city to respond on how are you going to come up with 58 million of maintenance of effort, maybe you could provide us with a report of what has maintenance of effort looked like for us for these last years, as we continue to see the education of our students being, the city's contribution being pushed into this category of maintenance of effort. And I will repeat, maintenance of effort does not pay for positions. If they're cutting from the 10 million, from the 14 million last year to 10 million, that's $4 million in positions that we are not going to be able to fund. And I don't think it's sustainable. We are just starting to pick up, to be able to make traction over the losses we've had during the pandemic. And I think that those pieces of information would be very helpful for us as we move forward with advocacy with the city. Because I think that the council, when they look at what's fair, because, going from 14 to 10 million is a 25% cut in their cash contribution. And that's not even mentioning the additional money that the state is expecting the city to pay.
On May 8th at 8 o'clock, the superintendent sent out the letter from the city that had the breakdown. We all got it. So I don't know if you saw it or not, but it is on there. And the bottom line, the reason why I asked this report was that since the fiscal year 2020-2021, the school department has added, this is not added, 247 positions in the last 5 years. Has added 247 positions over the past 5 years. 247. Yeah, so an average of 50 a year.
And how is that number arrived at?
Mr. Pinto? It's the breakdown we just got.
So the number was arrived at by need. So the formula, as dictated by the state, has separated the students into categories, and those categories are weighted. And based on those weights, the state then determines state aid. Of course, there are a number of other items that factor into the equation, but based on the profile, the demographics of the students that we have here, the state has determined our state funding, and then based on city income and a number of other factors, they determined the city's required contribution. So those dollar amounts have increased year over year, and I'll point to FY 25 and 26 now, this current year and next year as examples. Based on the formula the state has determined and the profile of our students, the district contribution should move from $64 million to $68 million, so an increase of an additional 4. State aid has increased 18 million. So based again on the profile and demographics of our students, so what our students need, the state determined we needed an increase in funds. So we are dependent on the cash that's provided along with the maintenance of effort in order to meet the needs of our students.
Ms. Martin?
Just to circle back to, I think, what was the initial question, in terms of determining how the number of new positions was determined.
I believe, Mayor Rourke, you received some information independently. Is that correct?
Yes, but that was from 2019, Mr. Superintendent, so I'll go with what Mr. Pinto has.
The information about the numbers we've given you on this sheet, we haven't totaled the number of teachers, or paraprofessionals, for example, so we don't have the number that the mayor gave. It doesn't meet, let's assume that number is correct. It would include, by way of explanation, it would include new populations requiring new services. It did not include new elementary classrooms, obviously, because we just saw that number stayed the same. If you look at the area where it says tutors tutors are counted by the amount of money we spend on them rather than by individual tutors, because some tutors work up to 18 hours a week. Some may work only half that amount of time, and so a school could have three or four tutors. Another school could have one or two, and they could both be spending the same amount of money. The amount of money on tutors has increased considerably, as you can see, up to 23-24, and last year we made some cuts, and we're anticipating further cuts this year. The state has encouraged districts like Lowell to provide services closer to what is provided in suburban communities. And that is sort of an increment that's added through what's called the Student Opportunity Act. So yes, we have been adding some teachers and paraprofessionals in an attempt to catch up with suburban areas. That's a sort of a simplistic response, but I think that's accurate.
I mean, I just think for our purposes tonight and moving forward, I mean, I think the standard of a full-time equivalent is something we're all pretty familiar with. So I think that would be a more effective way to track your tutors in a way that would, I think, meet the needs of what in this case specifically, the mayor has been asking for about the actual number of new positions. Again, just looking at, this doesn't answer the question. So that's, yeah, exactly. But so it would be good, I think, to have the actual listing that was initially asked for, so we could look at the number of FTEs and what's been added. I mean, I'd also say over the course of these 5 years, we've also seen an increase in actual students.
That's right.
I mean, so there is a let's hope, correlation between those two things too. But I just, and I don't know if we're not describing well enough about what it is we want, but it does encumber the process incredibly if, when we ask a specific question, if we don't get the answer back in the format or in a way that we can really use the information. And if that's a failing, I will say specifically on my part, I will apologize. I will try to be clearer about what I'm looking for, but it really, in what is going to be a very difficult process, it makes it harder than it needs to be.
Understood. We'll try to provide the information you need. I think in the past week, we found that there wasn't enough time to be clearer than we were able to be today. The document you're talking about was printed about 10 minutes before this meeting started. We really are working hard, and we're trying to produce what you're asking for. It's been difficult to, we've had a lot of last-minute changes this year. We're trying to notify staff before we publicize cuts. We're trying to be thoughtful about it and then produce accurate information and double-check it and so on. Certainly with more time, I think we could produce, and we will continue to work on what you're asking for.
And just for a quick frame of reference, in that same time period, when the school had 247 positions, the city had 19.
Thank you for that. Could I just add something here? And I appreciate the time constraints, because we met Wednesday night. You've got to have it out by Friday. You're still, you weren't able to make it for the packet. But I think it's really important to look at some of those positions, because if you want to do a comparison, Mayor, I'd like to know if there's any city department that's being cut 25%. I'd like to know that. And I'm not interested in pitting position against position, but look at some of the growth that we've seen in positions. So ELL teachers went from 77 to 111. Social workers, we went from 40 to 62. We were up to 70, but now we cut additional. I mean, these are positions, especially these mental health positions. We need these people in our schools. We know our kids have been traumatized, and there's a lot of anxiety. We went through a pandemic together, and we're trying to build back our ability to recover from the learning loss during the pandemic and continue to make progress. And I think the numbers are showing that we are making progress. We're reducing the dropout rate, we're getting the graduation rate. Those kinds of things matter. So when we look at, where have been the one that Superintendent Skinner mentioned, mainstream paras. Yeah, in 2020, we had 186. Now we're up to 225. These are positions we need. We doubled the tutor, even if we look at it FTE, we doubled what we spent on tutors because tutors are an incredibly good bang for our buck. Many of them are retired teachers, providing that one-on-one support for students who are struggling. Yeah, it's been a lot of positions we've increased, and I think that it was based on the needs of our students, as Dr. mentioned. Pinto.
Thank you. If Ms. Doherty, you happen to pick out two categories I think that are illustrative of some of the changes in Lowell. You mentioned, by the way, that our population has increased, and it has. Not only has the population increased significantly, the needs of the population have increased significantly. I had an opportunity to speak to the City Council last night, and I shared with them that this time last year, our percent of homeless students was about 7%. It's now 10%. Our students who are learning English is close to a third. It's over 30%. So, and then I want to tie that comment into increments in spending and increments from the state in so-called Student Opportunity Act funds. Some of our students who are learning English work in a newcomer's classroom. They don't have a word of English, and that's a newcomer's classroom. As they gain proficiency, they're sent out to the mainstream classrooms, but they're offered what's called ELD, English Language Development Instruction, by a certified, qualified English language learner teacher. We have far, far fewer of the teachers, those particular teachers in Lowell, than is required to meet the minimum standard of a 45-minute ELD lesson. And we've worked with the Department of Education, and they've continued to press us on that. One of the reasons we haven't complied, it would require, vastly more teachers than we have. But you've noticed, Ms. Doherty pointed out, or if you look at the line for EL teachers, it's increased in the last 5 years from 77 5 years ago to 111 now. That's not, the school department's having fun with all the extra money. That's literally providing for basic needs and not even getting there, but inching closer to it. You mentioned social workers. We heard numerous times from this committee, in particular, about mental health needs. And so, yes, we honored the wishes of the committee, and we did that. We're now, as you notice, beginning to reduce the number of social workers that we have now, and in the current budget, there's less again. But these are the positions, and this is what Student Opportunity Act increments have been used for. It could go on. There are various positions, as I mentioned to the City Council last night, that were added during the pandemic, such as library teachers. It's listed here as library media specialists. Do you notice we had 1 5 years ago, 4 years ago 1, then we had 2, I'm not sure why that was. Then a couple of years ago, we added back library teachers, 17 of them. Last year, we cut them, the vast majority of them. There are 2. I'm guessing that at least one of those may be at the high school, and I'm not sure where the other. But so my point about that is, it's not true that we added all these things during ESSER, and now we're in a predicament where we can't maintain them. We have cut the vast majority of ESSER added positions. We have already eliminated them during what we called last year a fiscal cliff. We are now talking about basic needed positions, ELL teachers, paraprofessionals, and so forth. If the committee finds waste or unwanted or unneeded positions in our budget, you please speak up and they'll be removed at your discretion. We'll follow your lead on these things, but we're presenting to you a bread and butter budget. There's no fancy positions, no new positions that aren't necessary, and there are very many cuts in front of you.
Okay, so I guess we're going back to page 12, 11. It was first, then it was seconded. Any other questions concerning this? Roll call. Oh, Mr. Bauer, go ahead.
Looks like line 4, Mass General Law, Chapter 74, outstanding prior year expenses of $150,000. So go ahead. I think Mr. Pinto might have an answer for that.
I'd like to take it if you don't mind.
Okay, please.
Thank you. It's been a perennial issue. This is outstanding prior year expenses, sometimes referred to as bad bills. Oftentimes in the past, no provision is made for that. None at all, no line in the budget. Dr. Pinto has worked to clean up our budgeting processes, in part by adding a line for items that we spend on year after year after year that no provision is made for. So we're scrambling to find the money. For that line item, the industry standard is up to 2%. So in business and in schools and so forth, the industry standard for excellence is no more than 2% of so-called bad bills or outstanding, right? And so this amount, 150,000, is ambitious. It's about 0.25%. So it will probably exceed that spending on prior year bills, but it's at least a recognition that it's likely to occur.
Is this from bad bills that we had this previous year? Or is this bad bills that we are maybe expecting for next school year?
Dr. Pinto?
So while we would like to eliminate outstanding prior year expenditures, this is an acknowledgement that it does happen. And so it's a fraction of an amount that we thought was important to set aside. So it's we're anticipating it may happen. If we were 100% in control of the process, we could eliminate it, but because we deal with vendors and we can't control all the time when they submit their invoices, that's an issue.
So this is money that we're anticipating that we're owed out from previous school years?
No, this is money that's planned for next year.
We're planning for bad bills in the future.
We
That's
are.
right. That's right.
I mean, you know, he comes to the council a couple of years ago with the superintendent and said, it won't happen again. It happened again. Mr. Pinto was here last year, and so we found some other old ones again from 19, 2020, 2021, and he asked the council to approve those, which we did do. If 150 wasn't in the budget the last 4 or 5 years, what's the need for it this year when every time you come before us, council, with bad bills, you say, we have the money to pay them?
So thank you for the question, Mr. Mayor. Actually, at this, both at the city council meeting and then subsequently with the second set of approvals, so actually with the first set of hearings, our recollections may be a little bit different. I did acknowledge that there were bad bills. I did note that there were several that were under investigation. 3 of the bad bills were pulled from the agenda and asked to be verified, or the city solicitor was asked to provide additional documentation, which he did. At that second meeting when I arrived, I did acknowledge that we are working and have put several processes in place, including the notification of vendors, the early closing of spending. So we're have an early purchase cutoff in order to attend to these items, and so we are working to eradicate them. I can't say with certainty that it doesn't happen. I know that when you're an organization that purchases as much as we do from as many vendors as we do, having a small number of bad bills is inevitable. I would like to underline the point the superintendent mentioned, which is that we are well below industry standard.
So how did the bad bills get paid this year if there wasn't a budget for them?
There are many items, Mr. Mayor, that occur, and many expenses that occur in a year that that there was not provision for. That statement could land you in trouble if you didn't have funds to pay it. But most years we have some line items that are underspent. And sometimes we have positions that were not filled that were budgeted for. We refer to that as vacancy savings. And so throughout the year, the budget is continually worked. We monitor our spending. If something costs more, something else better costs less, right? And this is how the budget is worked out throughout the year.
So we're not spending without a purchase order, correct?
I beg your pardon, I didn't catch.
We have purchase orders that are there to be paid. So you're saying that if we don't get them at a certain point in time, after June 30th, then it becomes a bad bill. But my point, again, is that we've dealt with this since as long as anybody here has been a member of the school committee, as long as I've been a city councilor, you come before us every year with bad bills, whether it's, done intentionally or unintentionally. $150,000 pays for what, 4 or 5 paras? So I would make a motion to strike that 150 from the outstanding prior year expenses. Second by Ms. Martin. Mr. Lay, go ahead.
I just want to say that we did budget. I remember vividly that I worked with our former CFO, and I cannot recall if I even had the motion that we put aside $200,000, anticipating what we call not a bad bill, but a delayed bill. So I think I just don't know where we put. I cannot recall where we put in the this year's line item. But we did put aside $200,000, and we voted for it. I remember that.
And
So-
and my guess is, this delay is that when these orders are placed and we know we're going to purchase an item, the department has the money to pay for it at that point in time. So that's why every year when it comes in late, the school department always says we have the money. So it seems like very counterintuitive when you're looking at classroom cuts to put $150,000 in there just because. I guess my other question would be is, can we transfer that 150 over right now to take care of 4 or 5 paras that are going to be cut? Can that be done in a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I would suggest if you want to take the 150,000 out, we can do that, and that accounts for the bottom line number will be adjusted for this page, and then we can honor your request or the committee's request when we get to align with paraprofessionals and estimate how many can be added back in.
Sounds good.
Mr. May I add?
Go ahead, Mr. Lay.
Thank you. I just want to say that I think that I want to support having this line just because having it in place, we have eliminated what's called bad bill that we have encountered so many years in the past. So I think to take it away, we will go back to having issues with late bills
So
again.
I'll try it again. So when the school department makes a purchase or the city makes a purchase, it's budgeted that we can pay for it. If the company or the vendor is late in giving us the bill, the money is still there for the payment, whether it's on June 29th or it's on July 5th. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Mr. Mayor, the city encumbers that money, and so in effect, the school department pays double because the money that we budget for the item doesn't get spent. The fiscal year expires, the city encumbers that money, and when we pay the bad bill, let's say it's several months later, the school department pays the bill, even though the money for the bill was encumbered by the city. So, I'm okay to remove this line. I'm okay to allocate it to paraprofessionals as the committee wishes. It's just that the existence of bad bills is a fact. It will probably occur again. If it occurred to the extent of $150,000 for 1 year, that would be remarkably good. If we don't put it here, we're not accounting for any bad bills. We'll have to find the money elsewhere when we get to that.
Ms. Doherty?
I can actually see both sides of this argument, where we're looking at potentially having to cut positions to put aside this money. So I just want clarification on my understanding. Whenever we have bad bills, we've always covered them, right? We have to go to the city because we need the city's approval, and it's always like this very shameful thing that we have to go through. And it does seem like it got worse a few years, and I'm hopeful that with the new team, we're going to see improvements on that. But that's a fact, right? We've always been able to cover our bad bills.
Yes.
So even though we go to the city and we get somewhat beaten up about it, we're still writing the check. We pay for the bills.
And to Dr. Pinto's credit, over the past year since he's been here, he has found many more of those bad bills.
Right, you went
And-
back in time,
Right.
like a few years even, really, really old bills. If we want to take away the word bad, old bills you found from, which I think we need to say to those vendors, you don't bill us in time, or you don't get the money, it's on you, goodbye. But in terms of this particular item, I think I could see the argument, let's use that money for positions if we're looking at, although I'm not done fighting about the city paying its fair share, I do see that it's a little counterintuitive.
And again, the school site on the summary page of reductions, I would imagine, I don't know if they take a vote on it or not, but any cuts that are made this evening, I would imagine would go to making sure those paras and tutors remain employed. Roll call, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Ms. Del Rossi?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Lay? Yes. Ms. Martin?
I'm sorry, we're voting on the cut or we're voting on the bottom
On
line?
the cut.
Yes.
Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
7 yeas.
So I have a balance of $135,700? No, sorry,
237?
237. No, 137.
137.
137. So we now take a vote on the 137 by Mr. Lay, second by Ms. Doherty. Madam Clerk.
No, you have it first and second.
Okay.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
7 yeas.
Page 12, 1200, Superintendent. The motion to accept the recommendation of the Superintendent to approve the bottom line figure of $1,283,543 by Mr. Conway, second by Mr. Rossi. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, are we on page 12?
Yes, page 12, yes. Hold on one second, please. So, this is right here, right? So this is page 13.
This is page 13. No, we're on the superintendent's page now. Yeah, do you need it?
Yeah. The clerk is stealing my paperwork.
I don't have it. Okay.
I got it.
There you go.
Any comments?
Connie had her hand up.
Martin, did you want to say something? No.
Oh, I thought she did.
Mr. Rossi?
Just have a question about the process.
Yeah, I guess if the higher number is with the raises, is this accurate for the entire year? These numbers, the 1.1? Because the older ones with the increases has, superintendent of schools at 238.50, assistant superintendent operations 228.808, assistant superintendent of academics 181.125. So that would be the full amount for the end of the year. So would that offset this number? I just want to make sure we're not getting ourselves into trouble if we don't have the true number with the mid-year increases.
So, Mr. Rossi, do you mind pointing to just say one line that we could look at and respond on that? We're on page 12, is that right?
Yes, so that was in the previous, before you did the revisions, unless that's the salaries that are just going to be for the whole entire year, but it just, as a superintendent, does your salary stay at the same rate from the first of the year to the end of the year?
Mine does, yes.
And all the assistant superintendents?
Yes.
Okay, all right. That was my question. All right, but when it comes to then, say, teachers or administrators in other positions, do theirs go up at one point?
Understood. Dr. Pinto, please.
Say for midpoint increases. So for teachers, we did take into account the midpoint increases, so there are some midpoint adjustments that we had to account for.
Are we all set with that page 12? Go ahead, Ms. Doherty.
I'm just trying to understand as we're moving forward, if the positions, as we go page by page, if there is a position that has been, whether it's tier 1 or tier 2, has been highlighted as possibly having to be cut, should we be voting on the bottom line for those positions or separating them out?
So that's a good point. So I just asked Mr. Hall about this. So we just took 150 out of the last page, the last budget, right? I think that should go to a suspense account, and then we ask the superintendent to reallocate that towards the positions that we, that are on the, lack of a better term, chopping block.
Because it needs to balance.
Right. So
But what
that
about
to
this
balance it.
list of the tiered 1 and the tiered 2? As we come across pages that have those positions in them, what should we do? What should we be doing with those? Pulling them out and putting them in the suspense account?
Yes.
It sounds like one option, I think, is to vote in the affirmative. Say you vote for the current budget in front of you. If we receive further funds, we'll come to you for permission to add back the positions that were, but, you know, it's like, as of this moment, like right now, this is the accurate budget that we've got based on the money that we've got, so I think we've got to work with it. If we receive additional funds between now and next week, we'll inform the committee and we'll come forward with the recommendation to add back.
That's inconsistent with what we're doing. Because, okay, we've got one of your tiered cuts under central office is chief of equity. That position is on this page.
As being cut. If you notice, if there's two, right, as being cut.
I see it now.
Right.
You're right. I didn't do the math. It's not in the total, the bottom line number. So we're voting on this page, we're voting to make that cut.
Correct.
As opposed to say, put it into a suspense account. Let's look at all the positions we put into the suspense account, which again, when we go back and we get more money and we can reevaluate, it's simpler to have it all in one place, isn't it?
Understood. So if I may, I hope I'm helping to be clear. If there's a position listed here that we're working to spend money on, and the committee is not sure we should have that position, you may tell us, don't spend that money. Put it in the suspense account and we'll decide later. If you wanted to do that with some of the positions that are being cut, let's say there's a paraprofessional being cut, you couldn't put it in the suspense account because there's no money to put there. But you could tell us that that's what you wish to do, right? And we'll come back to you with the revised budget. For example, with the 150,000 that the mayor referred to, we can come back to you with the revised budget book that adds back so many paras that will, right? Or other funds that come in. For tonight's purposes, you know, this is the money that we've got to work with, and the committee can agree or object to anything. In terms of suspense, though, it's only what's here that you can take away that can go into suspense.
Ms. Martin.
So we would need to create a different bucket to be able to put these positions that we want to keep in consideration for later. It wouldn't be the actual dollar figures because the dollar figures have already been eliminated from this budget. But we would need to create and instruct the clerk or whoever does this to create a new list of positions that we're holding in abeyance. How about that?
Great. I think that's a good idea. May I suggest as well that when we get to the end of the night, this page that has all the cuts on it, you could use this page and say, here, these ones, these ones, these ones, these are the ones you want you put in abeyance, right? You
Right.
could do that.
Which I think is perfectly appropriate. That would be great. I'm just going to reiterate that as we come across each one of these positions in this document, please bring our attention to it.
Understood.
Don't expect us to chase it down.
Understood.
So as we get to it, please, I beg you, tell us when we see them.
Mr. Lay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, on this case, is Chief of Equity has agreed to mutually agree to part way. Is that how it is now?
So, Mr. Lay, I don't think anybody is asking for or mutually agreeing to have their position reduced, right? But the people in the budget who are positions are being cut, all of those people have been informed.
Roll call, Madam Clerk. I'm sorry.
I just want to point out something else about this page. So we are eliminating the advertising budget, right? We had 20,000 for advertising. We're not going to spend any on advertising.
So yes, that's correct. So and at least I don't know if it occurs elsewhere in the budget, but This is an item, it's under superintendent. I don't spend money on advertising. I'm not sure why it was there. Dr. Pinto has worked to clean up the budget book. If money was allocated but not spent, he's being very clean about that, and so there's no money for advertising there.
And you've dropped supplies by 3,000. That's also something that,
We didn't need, we
Okay.
still reduced.
all right, thank you.
Ms. Martin?
Thank you. Just in terms of the in-state travel, and actually that's the only one in here. I know that it's part of your contracts for everyone in the superintendent, for the superintendent's office and your administration team. So you already paid that. What would this represent?
This dollar amount happens to be the LSAA traveling to schools. It happens to fall to the superintendent's budget.
It's not attached to there? All right.
Has it been first and second already?
Yeah.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi? Ms. Doherty?
Yes,
Mr. Lay?
No.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
5 yeas, 1 nay. I'm sorry, 6 yeas, 1 nay.
Can I ask one last question? And I'm super sorry. But so where we eliminated that 20,000 from the advertising, that's not on this list of cuts?
Oh, so, okay, yes, that's true.
I'm just trying to make sure things
No,
correlate. You know
right.
what I mean? That we're-
There's, yes, yes, you're correct. I don't know how to respond to that there are minor changes in the, line items there. None of them are hidden. There will be, I think, page by page, before we comment for the next, I'll run you through it. Dr. Pinto?
So, Ms. Martin, I'll be happy to add to that. This is a reduction that we were not planning to put back.
It wasn't accounted for on that page. It's a reduction, or that the committee may choose to bring back. That's right.
There's a couple others too that we'll get to that down on the sheet. Okay. Yeah.
Can I just, this is an aside, if I may, Mr. Mayor. I was remiss at the beginning to not introduce the committee to the people beside me. I think you know Dr. Pinto. Ms. DuPont, Ms. Amanda DuPont, is our deputy CFO joining us for tonight. She has come up with a super deluxe system for keeping track of everything as we go, so that as we get to each page and as we get to the end, we will have accurate numbers to refer to. So we invited Ms. DuPont, and I wanted you to know that. Thank you.
May I also add that I really appreciate the large print, because every budget meeting that we have, I have to bring a magnifying glass to see. So thank you.
Great. Moving on, pages 13 and 14, Finance and Administrative Services of $7,043,085. Motion to accept by Mr. Conway, second by Mr. Bahu. Mr. Conway.
Yeah, this is page 13 we're on, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, I have a few questions on that. Number 48, the scheduler at Lowell High School, and it's 95,575 presently, and then for the following year, there's nothing there. So who will do the scheduling at this point? How is that, who's picking up the gauntlet with that particular job, or how's it handled?
Right. I'm not sure we have a specific answer, Mr. Conway. I know the high school is providing for scheduling. They may be restructuring staff. I've said this before, and until the committee changes it, the committee hasn't, up until recently, or in recent years, encouraged us to use what's called a fair student funding model, where in the schools with their school site councils decide how to allocate their funds. And so that is done separately from central office. We roll up their school budgets into the main budget, but the decision was made at Lowell High School. I trust that they are providing for, I think they've added, if I'm not mistaken, they've added positions elsewhere, and so they obviously have plans for scheduling. I just don't have.
Well, the point I'm making is that at one point in this past year, where we're paying somebody 95,575 to do scheduling, which is, you know, quite a bit of money, and then all of a sudden, that's wiped out, which is, you know, it is what it is. I'm just wondering whether, you know, what are we doing to make sure that that particular job is filled? I mean, I would think somebody would have a handle on that somewhere.
Dr. Pinto?
So these kind of reductions were made in consultation with the schools. So each school had their own workbook to work through, and so Principal Fiato had a plan for.
Okay,
accounting
so we're not going to have any problem with scheduling then? Is that the point?
Yes.
Okay, all right. We'll go back and revisit that, I think. Anyways, number 32, Human Resource Manager. That was not in the budget for 25, and it's $150,000? Am I getting that? Is that right?
That's
Am I
correct.
reading that correctly?
That's correct. So in the budget for last year, we had a difficult time this time last year resolving how to restructure central office. And we attempted to add some positions that we were unable to add, which included, and were in the budget, a director of human service, a director of human resources. That position was unable to be filled. However, we, in place of it, we can fill a position, the one that's listed here, human resource manager.
You know, maybe we should put that in the, what is it, suspense account? Take a look at it later, all right? And just one other one, Mr. Mayor, if you bear with me here. The following 30,
Mr. Conway, before, the floor is yours, but, so you made a motion to cut out line 32, put into a suspense account?
yeah, put it in the suspense account, yeah.
Seconded by Ms. Martin. Any comments just on this one before we go back to Mr. Conway? Yeah, I agree 100%. Again, this is another 3 or 4 paras, right? We haven't had this
Yep.
position. We didn't have a director of human resources last year, from what I understand.
Right.
Things are going fine, so
Right.
why mess with it now?
Now, the next one is human,
Mr. Conway, I'm sorry. Do a quick
I'm
roll
sorry.
call on the cut and go back to you.
I'm sorry?
Do a quick roll call on this cut and go back to you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Ms. Story, go ahead.
I'm just going to say I wouldn't support this. I think we need more in human resources, not less, although I'm not sure why a manager would be 20,000 more than a director, but.
There's 2 issues. One is what we dealt with last year in terms of what we're allowed to do. The other is that we didn't provide enough funds to hire for that position. The 130,000 was not adequate.
You couldn't get somebody.
That's right.
Ms. Martin?
I would just say, I understand the concern that my colleague has raised. In my mind, we're putting this into suspense because this will allow us the opportunity to get an actual job description, to be able to, like, my intention isn't to eliminate the position and putting it in suspense. It's so that it gives us some opportunity to review it before we would pull it out.
Correct.
Okay, all right, got that point.
Again, my concern, just personally, would be, I would prefer this to go to the in-class, people that are losing their positions. So,
Right.
I mean, if it hasn't been an issue, I don't think it has, that's my concern. So, the motion's been made, seconded, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes,
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
7 yes.
And
Conway, go
one other quick point on this. Number 33, Human Relations Generalist. $187,372. What,
I believe it's a
Have I got that
typo. I think
correct?
it should say human resources generalist. There are 2 human resources generalists.
what was it?
There's two positions.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Mr. Bahu?
I'm going to ask about a line 34, Staff Council for Student Services. Last year, we paid for 1.5 positions, and we were given a grant for a half a position. Both combined came out to about $240,000. This year, it looks like we're hoping to fund 2 positions for $313,000. So that looks like an increase of 25%. Is there a reason that we're increasing this particular line item by 25%?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bahu. This one is as a result of a salary increase. So school committee actually voted for increases, and student need dictated an increase in services was necessary. Initially, it was the 240 grant that was picking up some of the cost on the salary, but the salary is too great for the 240 at this time.
Sure, and I understand the 240, and when we indicated, when we voted, the school committee voted for this raise, was this part of the negotiations that we had with the UTL, or was this a line item discussion that we had?
Mr. Bahu, this was not one of those cases. We had one of the student support attorneys consider retirement. And we came to the committee to say that we didn't have a hope of finding someone at the salary we were giving that person. And so the school committee supported us to increase the salary to a rate where we might be able to find somebody. And then that person rescinded their retirement. And so, so the raises were in effect and the positions remained filled. If I could simplify it by saying the positions were considerably underfunded previously, and the committee acknowledged that. These particular positions saved the district hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. I could explain that very simply if you want me to. We have experienced some other districts where they don't have staff council and they budget, $1 million or $2 million per year for the services that our two staff councils provide.
Great, thanks for clarifying.
Ms. Doherty?
Thank you. My questions are for line 60 and 61. So line 60, computer hardware, admin, 118.5, and now it's up to $1 million. And then on 61, computer software went from 570 to 939. And I'm just wondering, it's quite a jump.
Dr. Pinto, please.
Thank you, Ms. Doherty. So that the 60 computer hardware line includes staff device refresh. So after, these devices have a particular life cycle. So after X number of years, the computers are either end of life or we need to refresh. So this is in part that staff device refresh. I can give you some more details on that in just a second. Yes, and student devices are included in that line as well. So student device refresh. For software, software includes PowerSchool, and it's aggregated software from other departments and includes cybersecurity. So we took software dollars that were allocated in different departments and have aggregated them into one and placed them in this cost center.
Which ones?
So I understand that computers age, and I think almost from the moment you take it out of the box, right, it starts to be obsolete. Are we on some sort of a rotation so that we're not going to be hit? I mean, this is a big increase, right? Are we on a rotation that we buy a set and then,
So that's being discussed at this time.
Yes. Dr. Pinto just reminded me that we are at the moment is exploring a buy versus a lease option. This figure, by the way, when you compare it to the past year, only $118,000 was set aside last year. It's likely because of the so-called fiscal cliff that we deferred refreshing machines for a year, and now we, need to do more than that. But we should have a system where it's cyclical and where we can anticipate what the cost is. We're working on such a system.
Yeah. And that would account for the $1.2 million jump for both hardware and software?
Yes.
Any other questions?
Just a quick question. I just want to make sure I heard you right. So that, of that million, just looking at the hardware number for now, you're saying that includes student purchases for student computers?
Dr. Pinto.
Yes, I'm sorry, that includes replacement and repairs.
For students.
For students, yes, that's correct.
So that wouldn't track based on program expenses as opposed to administrative expenses?
Anybody else?
So this is the cost center that made the most sense because it falls to the manager of IT to secure the quotes, evaluate the computers that are out, and make decisions, so assist and support the sites.
In other words, it's not a school function to add, and we could have taken that number and divvied it up by the schools, and that didn't make much sense. It's a centralized feature that we process. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Lay?
Thank you. On the same topic, I just, the description says admin. That kind of throw me off because admin, I thought that is a person, that is a personnel that, am I wrong? So it's not a position?
No, I think you're, if it's throwing you off, Mr. Lay, it's confusing, right? I think it's a question for each item, which line is best suited for this to be put in? If you notice the red header above it, Administrative Technology district-wide, we can take a look at that and put it in a different category or change the title of it if it's confusing, but it's because there's a district administrator who purchases the computers for all the schools, and that felt like the best place to put it this year.
Yeah, I just thought, okay. So I want to go back to question on line number 24, mail courier, that I don't remember, maybe school committee decided to have that salary jump, but it was jumped from 43,000 to 60,000. I think that's a big jump, so I just wonder if you remember what we did?
Still only one FTE.
Why it jumped that much, yeah.
We have an explanation.
Thanks, Mr. Lay. We added a courier on Friday, which added cost.
I'm sorry?
So we're now paying for Friday delivery, which we didn't pay for previously. So that, in combination with wage adjustments, has resulted in the new dollar amount.
Okay. I don't know what you mean by that, but
So we used to have delivery to the sites, so all 28 sites in central office, 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. So it was determined that it was a necessity to have delivery occur on Fridays as well. So we
Okay.
had to pay an additional dollar amount for that
For that
same
one day.
FTE, so to get them to deliver on 5 days a week, and there were wage adjustments, so we did adjust the wage upward.
okay.
Okay.
So I got a bunch of hands up. Mr. Rossi, Mr. Bajo, and Ms. Martin. Mr. Rossi, go ahead.
Additionally, we have 3 mail couriers, all that make 25,433. And that doesn't relate to one mail carrier who makes 60,000, right? There's 3 listed here. I've seen them actually around town. In addition, in 119, page 119 of the revision. And then additionally, I'm just wondering why we're getting rid of our own, on line 40, why we're getting rid of our own district webmaster, and then we're adding contractual services for technology, about $100,000. I think we've all made the point that we're adding, like, when we read the permission to enter, that there's tons of contracted services. So why would we add more contracted services if we have a webmaster that's making 84,000 and add 100,000? It just doesn't add up.
Ms. Del Rossi, I'll take the first one on the mail courier. There are 3 mail couriers. They're paid at $20,000 each, which totals the $60,000. So I think we should stick to the budget book for this time, but you can use it for clarification if you want to know who the people are that are in those roles, but it may be causing confusion because it's the 3 of them that make up the 1 FTE.
On here, it says 25,433, and I mean, even the numbers aren't adding up. and this is why I'm starting to not feel comfortable with this, because also, when you add up the numbers for all of the superintendents, the assistant superintendents, minus the chief of equity even, the total I'm getting is $1,197,365, and that's a $14,000 difference. And if you add up these numbers, I mean, it's,
So,
They need to be linked.
I mean, that's a lot of paper we wasted if all of these salaries on these individual papers are wrong.
So, Ms. Del Rossi, I'll be happy to look into that further, but it's my so I know that there are at least three couriers that add up to the one FTE, and so that's what I have on record for this moment. I'll be happy to look into it further.
Why does it only say one on the master?
So, because there are three part-time people that equate to one. They don't all work, nobody works 5 days a week, but the total number of hours adds up to one FTE.
So, all right, it wouldn't be 1.5?
No,
There are three people.
.33?
They share a job. Three people share a job.
three people share one job.
0.33? 3.33?
Times three.
Right? Just
Times
for
three. Yeah.
clarification's purposes.
They each
it-
work a third of a job.
Okay.
Mr. Bahu?
I'd like to go back to line 60, from the computer hardware. Looks like we're going from, again, 118,000 to $1 million. We're indicating that we're looking to either leasing or buying some of our devices, which all seem to have gotten old at the same time, which happens with technology. However, firstly, are we leaning towards buying or leasing? Do we have an answer on that? Because it's $1 million, line item, so it's a pretty hefty amount.
Thanks. So at the moment, I should indicate that line is comprised of several items, right? So including, the refresh aside, it's also including infrastructure, firewalls, ransomware, and cybersecurity. So there's a number of parts that make up that $1 million. So for the coming year, we do not have a lease agreement in place, and a lease agreement would require a substantial investment to start, so a greater amount to start, and then would flatten out over the series of years that we are leasing before time comes to refresh. So we have not finalized yet. We haven't arrived. Right now, it's a buy for next year.
And what you
At this
just
time.
mentioned was everything being leased, is that correct, the cyberware and,
So those software agreements and licenses come on a yearly basis typically.
so, where I'm going with this is could we go ahead and reduce that line item from the $1 million to $750,000, I'm sorry, to $618,500, which would be $500,000 on the district this year, this upcoming school year, and then $500,000 on the following school year. Or could we go ahead and increase it a little bit? Because that, $1 million number seems to be pretty excessive. And I understand that the district needs malware and software and hardware and all of that. But, to maybe have some number that seems to be pretty high. Essentially, it's 8 times greater than what we did last year. So have we already gotten quotes? Do we already know what this is going to cost us? Or are we hoping that we're right there? What's the general thought on it?
So thank you, Mr. Bahu. We're hoping that we are right there. So the technology director has given me 13 line items with regard to the hardware line that have to do with quotes from Apple, the Ockers Company, Wally Computer Associates, et cetera. So he has determined the needs and line item the dollar amounts for me, which come to the cumulative total of $1 million. Were we to reduce the $1 million, it would mean that we would ask them, the first thing we would do is ask them to extend the life of their devices. So if somebody's operating with a machine that's 5 or 6 years old or more, we would ask them to extend that life and use it for another year or another 2 years. Typically, technology is an 18-month for technology to double, right, in its capacity. So an 18-month replacement is unrealistic, and we'd never do that. We'd aim for a 3 to 5 year life cycle. So typically, so where we're sitting right now is 5 years with a significant number of devices, 5 years plus.
Yes, and I have spoken to the technology director before, and he did share the information of, yes, we do use devices that are over 5 years old, but he's able to go ahead to get them to operate. And I think that, again, this line item seems pretty excessive. I don't know if any of my school committee members would like to reduce this line item, or if we just want to sort of proceed with it and keep it at $1 million.
Is there a motion?
Yes, and I'd also like to know, I asked about the technology contracted services, where we're going up close to $100,000 when we already have a webmaster. It just doesn't seem to be making sense. Can we make that at least happen?
I would just,
Thank you. So the webmaster, so I appreciate the question. Thanks, Ms. Del Rossi. So the services that we would provide through contracted services have to do with E-rate consulting, backing up of scanned documents, data drops as needed, conferences for teachers and other staff, migration services. So these are all services that the webmaster cannot provide. They're beyond his or our capacity as a department to do that. So in those instances, we contract out. Naturally, we always want to default to the services that we're able to provide internally. And so if we're able to provide internally, we ask our internal staff to cooperate on a project, or we engage or partner with city services to assist us.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Doherty?
I'm just wondering if we could get some follow-up information about the technology piece, because I know that we, as a committee, are trying to do our due diligence. We want to save jobs. We want to keep people, but I do think the technology piece is important, especially cybersecurity stuff. We know we've been breached before as a district. So I would just ask if that wouldn't be too onerous to provide us with maybe a one-page synopsis of what these numbers are going to mean for the district.
May I suggest, Ms. Doherty, Mr. Mayor, we put it in suspense, and this committee can decide when you've received sufficient information to move forward. But in the meantime, we can put it in suspense, if that makes sense.
I guess the question I would have quickly before you do Mr. Bahu is there any harm in doing it half this year, half next year?
There may be. So I don't know this, but if we made a similar decision last year, there was 118,000 budgeted last year. I'm guessing that we deferred a number of refreshes. So, and if it makes, I did a rough calculation that the $1 million that's set aside, I think, would provide devices for one full grade level. That's about it across the district. So I think that you'll find that the funds are allocated well. But I think where there are so many questions, it makes sense to defer tonight and put it in suspense, and we can come back with much more information, perhaps even have our technology director be here to answer in detail.
By Mr. Bahu, second by Ms. Doherty. Roll call.
What is it?
To move $1 million into suspense account.
And that would be line item 60 and 61, correct?
I just had 60. 61 would be another additional 900,000.
60 and 61, let's put them both in suspense.
Okay.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Ms. Del Rossi?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
7 yeas.
Ma'am, are you here for a conservation meeting? Yeah, right down the hallway. Mayor's reception room. Trust me, you don't want to be here. Yeah, no problem. Good luck. Any other questions on this one? I have a couple. So, line 45, looks like it was grant funded last year, but this year we added it to our payroll. Is that correct? SIS and state reporting specialist? Okay, so that wasn't added on the increase, was it? Did I miss it there? On the increase page? Page 118?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That position existed last year, and so it's not a new position.
Right, but we didn't pay for it last year, correct? And we're paying for it this year?
So yeah, it moved from a grant-funded position to an operating budget.
Right, so it was not on our payroll last year, but now it is, right? 'Cause it came from grant money, and now we're adding it to us.
That's correct.
Okay, all right. And also, on 46, is this going to be a very similar circumstance where we're getting a grant this year at 62? I'm going to do the same thing next year again? Data office assistant?
The data office position is a new position.
The grant's already been awarded for that position?
No, we don't.
It says grant funded.
So, Mr. Mayor, this was a switch with the line above. So in line 45, went to 46.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, and this will be a little bit confusing, throughout, in the past year, the person who used to be our director of the data office, it was the director of performance or something of the sort, that person left the district. And we proposed not to fill that position to save money. But we readjusted within the department, not filling a higher level position, but instead hiring a lower level position, which is a data analyst. And so the data office assistant position exists today, even though it's not in the budget for last year, and that's because we added it during the year. And we brought that to the school committee as a proposal to save money.
So 45 and 46 are the same position? Or two different ones?
They're two different ones.
Okay. Then more I have on 62, the service provider, going up 160 grand. Is that a negotiated contract?
Dr. Pinto?
So this includes district, and there was an ISP increase. It was previously underfunded.
So the 183, that's already been reviewed, and that's what we're going to pay for the service for the fiscal year?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, great. Any other questions concerning this category? Motion by Mr. Conway. Quick question, yep, it's fine, go ahead. No problem.
I'd like to go back, or I guess go to the number 40 district webmaster. This would be one of those instances where this is a name that occurs on that list that you gave us of things, and I think we had said at the beginning you'd alert us as we come through the document when we come to those positions, so we wouldn't inadvertently go past them. So if we could, I mean, for this to work, we need to, you know.
So we should
Got it.
establish
Understood.
a time to do it.
Yeah,
either
so
at the beginning
if
or
I
the
may,
end.
Ms. Martin, I don't want to interrupt the mayor, but so if each time we move to a new page, Mr. Mayor, if you pause before taking questions and allow us to go through the page, I think we should do that.
Sounds good.
I'd like to move, I'd make a motion to move that position into suspense.
By Ms. Martin, second by Mr. Lay. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
So can I clarify, please? I just want to make sure we're doing the right thing. By moving it into suspense, you mean you want to consider not cutting it, right? Yeah.
And what's the dollar?
Thank you.
Take the webmaster. Take the webmaster, put it in suspense.
Yeah, I just wanted a dollar amount.
Oh,
Okay,
I'll
I'll
get
look
it for
it
you.
up.
Thanks. I'll get it for you. Roll call.
Mr. Bahu?
May I ask what we're voting on?
Sorry, what?
Put in the webmaster into a suspensive.
This is
And
to
so the
move the
webmaster?
webmaster.
Okay, that's fine, yes.
Yeah. Yes?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
7 yeas.
Anything else before we take a vote on the bottom line? Roll call, Madam Clerk. I'm sorry.
What is
You
the
wanna say
new
something?
bottom line?
I apologize.
I didn't hear. 4 million? 685. Did you get that?
Yep.
Okay, so the new, did everyone hear the bottom line figure? Okay, it's 4,953,685.
Roll call.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
7 yeas.
Moving on, page 15, 21XX, instructional leadership. A motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the bottom line figure of $3,794,800 by Ms. Doherty, second by Mr. Rossi. Any questions? Mr. Superintendent, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So on this page, school committee members, there are some changes I should alert you to. They include on lines 75 and 76. So in an attempt to reduce positions at central office, costs at central office, we are proposing, right now we have a coordinator for ELA and 2 district support specialists. We also have a coordinator for math and 2 district support specialists. We're proposing to reduce those 3 positions into 2. We would eliminate the district support specialists on line 75 and 76, and we would add, in place of those 2, a coordinator. One of the considerations here is that historically in Lowell, there was a coordinator for elementary and secondary, 2 people. Right now we have 3. We think we can achieve a cost savings by reducing that to 2, but both the 2 positions would be coordinators.
Is that additional day and additional math?
I beg your pardon?
So we're looking at the reduction description. You have 6 district support specialists being reduced.
That's right.
Then you just said you're going to take 4 of them and make them to 3 into 2.
So I'm talking about lines 75 and 76.
Yeah, gotcha.
The ELA and the math. There's, on a different page, we'll show you where there's an ad associated with that.
What's the position title, Mr. Superintendent?
So for ELA and for math, right this minute, there's a coordinator and 2 district specialists. So 3 folks for ELA and 3 folks for math.
Are those positions listed on the increase side of page 118?
They are, I believe.
That's what I asked. Additional day school coordinator, additional math coordinator, is that what you're talking about?
No, that's not where it is. There's an additional math coordinator and an additional ELA coordinator. So I want to be clear that while we're adding those 2 new positions, the net effect is to reduce a position for ELA and for math. We're reducing 3 positions to 2.
Okay, I apologize for asking again. So those 2 positions that you want to create, they are listed on the right side here. They are there. What's the title? Additional, is it the additional one? Okay, great. Then thank you. That's what I was asking for. Great, thank you. All right, and then just lastly, it says 6 district support specialists reduced. This is 4. Are there 2 others?
Right. There are 2 others. They're ELE. I think we should discuss them when we get to the page
Okay,
that
no,
they're on.
As long as it's not on the same page, that's fine.
Right. I just want to point out as well, we have a Director of Student Health and Wellness. This is line 88. And this shows that the position was grant funded and for next year will be city funded. We also, so the The director on line 88 of Student Health and Wellness, that position was funded by ESSER, the 123. Assuming that the school committee wishes to retain that position, it would have to be funded by local budget next year.
Is there a reason for the $19,000 raise?
The salary was incorrect last year, Mr. Mayor.
What was the salary last year?
I believe it's 123 as listed. Oh, excuse me, what was the correct salary last year? Can we give that, please? In the meantime, while we're looking for that, I'll point out that line 92 is a position that was anticipated, and so this was discussed with some individual school committee members, the idea that we would have, we don't have a director of professional development. So it was anticipated that we would come to the committee and seek to add that position. It shows 0 because we chose not to add it under the circumstances, but we wanted to be transparent with the committee that it was there and taken away. The other feature of this page is that at the last line, 93, we have 2 assistant directors for special education. One of them this year is local funded, and one of them is funded on a grant. Next year, they'll both be funded on a grant. I believe that's the 240 grant.
Director of Student Health and Wellness.
So back to 88 real quick.
Yes.
So last year's salary was 123,725? Or is that incorrect?
That's incorrect. The correct salary was 138,347.
Any questions from the committee? Mr. Conway?
Yeah, thank you. On 88, the Student Health and Wellness, I'm a little confused with that. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that particular job? Because, again, it wasn't there last year, and, right, grant fund, I'm sorry, and it's 14319, we need to pick up the tab. Could you explain a little bit more about that particular position, please?
So yes, Mr. Conway, I think we commonly refer to this as the Director of Mental Health, but it's the proper title is the Director of Student Health and Wellness. This is the individual in the office that oversees mental health services, both within the schools and working with the social workers around mental health services, also with trainings, with various interactions with community vendors such as VinFan and so on. It's our mental health director for the city, for the school department.
And if you take a look at the early childhood,
Which line, please?
I believe it's 66.
Yes.
That's the coordinator of early childhood. Isn't that grant funded, that position?
It's not, Mr. Conway.
Really?
Which one?
Line 66.
Yeah, on 66. I thought that position was grant funded.
68.
From early childhood.
It wouldn't come from the grant? To pay for that position?
Right. No, it's locally funded, Mr. Conway.
But I believe Mr. Conway, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, it's fine, go ahead.
I believe Mr. Conway's right, because I believe it was funded by a department from early education and care. That's what they're implementing, right? Whether
That's
it's a
right.
community partnership grant or,
That's right. There are positions funded by that grant, yes, and they're in the budget, not on this page. But the coordinator position, this time last year, it was locally funded, and it's slated to be locally funded again this coming year.
I mean,
I
the
don't know
grant
what-
is meant, I mean, that position is implementing that grant, correct?
I can. There is a CFCE coordinator.
Right.
That's not the same position. It's a different position.
Right.
And I believe when we get to the CFCE coordinator, that position you'll see is grant funded.
But there wasn't an early childhood specifically from EEC funding that effort.
No.
If you're telling me there's not, I believe you.
Right,
But
right. It was
Thought
locally,
there had been.
early childhood coordinator is locally funded.
Okay.
If I may,
So that's never been funded through the grant?
I don't believe so. So can I don't know if this is helpful or by adding more information. There was a time during a budget crunch in the late teens when I believe it was Superintendent Janine Durkin at the time, where that person was asked to become the principal of the Cardinal O'Connell School.
Right.
And so that person was both a principal and a coordinator at the same time, one salary. She was paid as a principal, she did the other job. A couple of years ago, I believe, the committee made the decision to split those positions, have a principal for the school and have a coordinator. And both of those positions were in last year's budget. It was something the school committee approved.
Well, I understand last year, but we're talking about this year. I'd like to put that in the suspense account so we can vet that out a little bit further, if you don't mind.
Understood. We'll do as you wish, as the committee wishes. I will say it's different from others in that this is, sort of, it's a long-standing position. It was at one point combined with the principal position and then separated again by the committee last year or the year before. There is a person in the role who's been in that role for many a long year and who's very much respected. I think
I'm not questioning whether they're respected or not. I'm just questioning about where the money's coming from. It's simple as that.
it's coming from the local budget, Mr. Conway. It did before and it is now, but we will follow your wishes.
The reason why I'm saying that is because it was in the past, early childhood director was grant funded, if I recall.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if that changed or what, but, I'd just like to get a clarification on it.
Understood.
And I'm not doubting you, but, when we're going over this budget, we want to make sure that, that we examine everything very carefully. And I'm not saying you're wrong on that, but I'd just like to have a double check on that if at all possible.
Certainly.
By Mr. Conway, seconded by Ms. Martin. Roll call.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
7 yeas.
Any other questions, comments about this section? Okay, good as well. So we need a motion to approve the new number?
Just no roll call.
Right, okay, I think you need a new amount, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we need new bottom line.
Coordinator for early childhood.
Take the roll call. We'll get to it. Roll call.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi? Yeah, we're waiting for the bottom line.
Yeah.
Can you say it into the mic? I can't.
The updated bottom line is $3,655,177.
Okay, so Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Lay? Yes. Ms. Martin? Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
7 yeas.
All right. Page 16, 22 XX, principals and school leadership. A motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and to approve the bottom line figure of $12,254,433 by Mr. Lay, second by Mr. Conway. Questions or comments? Mr. Conway?
Yeah, thank you. Line number 96, assistant principals. There's 28 of them last year, and there's going to be 28 this year. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Conway.
Okay. FY '25, it was $3,457,110. And for this year coming up, it's going to be $3,911,740. And that reflects an increase of $454,630, or $23,379 per assistant principal. So we're giving each, from one year to the next, a $23,379,000 raise?
Dr. Pinto. Do you know what's being asked?
What's that?
Do you know what's being asked?
Yes, I do. Sorry, Mr. Conway, I just need a little extra time on that. We're doing the calculations now.
If I may, I'd offer partial explanation. At this time last year, we were in negotiations, and I believe people received raises. You know, when those negotiations were completed, they received raises. Let's say that presumably the raise came through in the fall, and then there will be an additional raise in their contract for the coming year. So that
No, that must be the assistant.
there were at least two
But this don't-
raises incorporated since this time last year until this time now, if that makes sense.
Well, it just kind of stood out when I looked at the number, and I said, that seems, it seems in excess. And then when I
yeah.
figured out, and I'm not a math teacher, so I think I'm correct, but I might not be.
I mean, again, this is, we've added 8 in the last 2 years. 8 extras. Mr. Bajo, go ahead.
Sure, and I'll just jump on that conversation for a moment. I'm listening to the music.
May I please, if you don't mind, just going back to that question of just going through the page so you don't miss something. Can we do that while we're doing this? Okay. So the very top line is line 94. I think that that was sort of an aspiration that we could have a principal act as a lead principal. We didn't follow through on that this past year, and we're not intending to, so that's been taken out.
Okay,
On line 99, some funds were set aside for principal merit increases. We had a discussion with the school committee, and principal increases were agreed to this year, but we were not accounting for any additional increases here. It's been incorporated into their salary. So when we approve principal salaries, those amounts are accounted for there. We're not including line 99, in other words, because we're not anticipating any further raises or merit increases for principals. On
Sorry, go ahead. So, you have the testing coordinator, correct?
yes, on line 105, I'm going to defer to Dr. Pinto on that one. Possibly, if I'm not mistaken, that might be a Lowell High School position. So I'll take Mr. Mayor, would you like an explanation for line 105?
Yes, please.
Sorry, I was working on 96. Sorry, I'm going to go back to line 96. That's the calculation that I was working on for the assistant principal. So it was 3.5% this year and 3.5% for next year. Worked out to an average of $16,236 per assistant principal. So that number is correct. That's line 96. Now you wanted 105?
Yes.
So 105 is the testing coordinator. That existed last year in the others teacher category. So we're trying to be a little more specific with where people are.
So this is a new position that's created?
So no, this is not a new position. It's just been reallocated from another line. So this was the correct place for it to be put.
Okay, but I'm looking at FY25 general fund. There's no number there.
Yes, so Mr. Mayor, that would have been in the other teachers line. So there's another line in the budget that denotes other teachers, which had a bucket of teachers. And so now what we've done is we've reduced that other line and placed the teachers in the areas that they belong.
What was the salary last year? Do you have that?
Sure. I'll need a minute on that.
I mean, it makes it look like it's a new position, so that's why
Understood.
clarification would be good.
There's another item on that page that you should be alerted to, and it's on line 111. we're adding, proposing to add an administrator for the 80 school. So if you recall, we, under great stress, opened a section of the Jeanne d'Arc building that we now refer to as the George Sapasar School. When we opened that last August, well after budget time, we did not budget for an administrator for that school. We imposed upon the administrator in the Chelmsford campus of that school to manage both. And that's not a tenable situation, nor is it necessarily a safe one. And so if we're going to have two campuses, one in Chelmsford and one at this George Sapasars, we need to provide for an administrator in both campuses.
Okay. Just waiting for last year's salary for a testing coordinator.
So the salary for the testing coordinator was 125, came in this year at that amount.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, so that salary number is correct.
So same salary from last year's and the same salary for next year?
The person wasn't hired at that time. Sorry. Got it. Yeah, last year the 125 was a placeholder, and he was hired this year.
So that person is actively working that position right now. Any other questions? Mr. Bahu?
Back to line 96, thank you for the information of the 3.5% raise, the two 3.5% raises that resulted in the extra costs for the principals. Of course, it's over $450,000. Michael, when I compounded it, I got a different number. So my question becomes, are there step and column raises for assistant principals? Do they fall under the union? And I guess, so let's ask that question.
Yes, I believe there are.
There are.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So that would be the difference, is my guess.
Yes.
Because when I compound the 3.5 times 3.5, I get $3.7 million, but there's still an extra $200,000 difference. So I should expect the steps in the columns.
Correct.
Thank you.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any other questions? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Ms. Del Rossi? Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent.
Moving on, pages 17 and 18, teaching staff 23XX. A motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and to approve all the bottom line figure of $114,255,257 by Mr. Lay, seconded by Mr. Rossi. Any questions or comments? Mr. Rossi. Hey, Superintendent, anything you want to tell us about in this page, these pages?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On line 122, we have a reduction of a native language support teacher. I believe that was a vacant position that was not filled, and we're choosing not to keep that position. It's, as I said, vacant.
126 was reallocated, so 126 is that other teacher's line I was referring to.
Dr. Pinto will explain line 126, which shows a reduction in staff from 31 this current year to just 6 next year. Dr. Pinto?
Thank you. We've endeavored to be more specific with this line, so versus having the others, it's those are the teachers that I was speaking about that have been reallocated to other lines. It's not a reduction in staff. These include library teachers, community school managers, and positive behavior and mental health specialists.
Just to be clear, I think it does incorporate, so there's two things happening here. The line other on 126 was general bucket to put a lot of different positions. Dr. Pinto has worked to make the budget more specific and have the positions be in the right place on the budget book where they belong. And so a number of the 31 positions have been placed elsewhere on the budget. It's also true that a number of the reductions involve PBR teachers and so forth. In other words, the reduction from 31 positions to 6 is partially because some of those people are placed elsewhere on the budget. More accurately, it's partially because we have made some reductions.
Mr.
Again,
Lee, Ms. Martin, Mr. Lay, Mr. Rossi, Mr. Conley.
Did you call me first? Sorry. So on line 117, middle school teachers, it looks like we're adding 6. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then on line 120, social studies teachers, we're reducing 1.
That's correct.
Is there an explanation for adding middle school and reducing social studies?
Right. So, again, as you may recall, that at the school sites under the fair student funding model, the principals work with their school site councils to spend their allocation. Some principals may have chosen to hire, for example, an intervention teacher. When we talked about elementary teachers, we established that we have the same number of classrooms overall in elementary schools. But principals, particularly in middle schools, might have hired an intervention teacher. They might have decided there are so many students struggling in math, we want to provide an additional class for those students, so they might have hired an additional intervention teacher.
Got it.
They might have hired an additional art teacher. Somewhere along the line, one of our elementary schools changed the nature of a position that was listed as social studies and maybe made it humanities or something different. So these, what you see in front of you, are all the positions from all the schools rolled up into this document. So it's very hard to say specifically what was going on in any one school.
Mr. Lay? Go right down the line and come back this way.
Thank you. I want to go back to 122, native language support teachers. So if it was filled, if it was not filled last year, was the position being filled by a temp or by anybody else, or was just completely empty? And what is it anyway?
You want to talk? Dr. Pinto.
Mr. Lay, thanks. That question was never filled, and it never moved forward. So we eliminated it.
And it is not Khmer language.
That's correct. Oh, so
Is it?
I can't speak with specificity to that.
Oh, so Mr. Lay?
Ms. Phillips, are you able to give us further information?
So that's actually not something under my area, the native language teacher.
So if that's the case, can we move that to suspense account for now and we get more information later?
So, Mr. Lay, it's one of those ones where there's nothing to move to suspense. If you look at the budget for FY26 on the right-hand side, there's no position listed, so there's nothing to move into suspense. You could tell us that you want to examine a native language teacher position and you want to put it in a separate category to be considered later.
Sure. If that's the right way to do, but I just don't want to vote to support eliminating it if it is a Khmer
Understood.
Program, Khmer teacher.
Has the position ever been filled?
To my knowledge, no.
So is there a motion?
It is just a motion to move to
Abeyance.
to what? To abeyance.
By Mr. Lay, second by Ms. Martin. Again, the position's never been filled before. If there's something that can come before us down the line where you think you need it, you can always bring it back to us later on. But I just don't think we need to, it's 90 grand and to add it back to the budget, I don't think it's a good idea. Roll call, Madam Clerk?
So it's to advance.
Okay.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Mayor Rourke?
No.
6 yeas, 1 nay. Approved.
Ms. Martin?
My only question was, so looking overall, we're looking at a reduction of 13 teachers across the district. Now, some of those, I guess, have shifted to other places, but they should still be counted within this page, right? Like if you changed a teacher to another designation, they would still appear on this page.
Yes. Well, there are teachers on other pages too. So there are teachers on the next page.
But that's the total, are you saying on page 119, there are additional teachers?
I meant on page 18, the very next page.
Okay, but yeah, so that's the total of the 2 pages. All teachers are totaled there. That's where I got the 13.
Dr. Pinto, can you verify?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Martin. No, they may have moved to different areas altogether. It's library teachers, community school managers, positive behavior, mental health teachers, and so they've been broken out into their areas. So the area that
So library teachers don't appear as teachers?
they would have gone to the line where we provide for them. So 161 is the line that they would have gone to.
Okay, so on the next. Yeah, so that's like 4. I guess I'm just looking for clarification that we haven't eliminated any teacher positions, that this reduction of 13 is made up for on other pages. Thank you.
That's correct, Ms. Martin. And as it's so all the eliminations are on this one summary page, and there are no teacher reductions.
All set, Ms. Martin? Yeah. Mr. Bahu?
I didn't raise my hand, but I'll be happy to go.
Good, good. Mr. Conway, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, but I think that my question has been answered, and I just wanted to make sure of that 31, and I understand it's some are moved here and some are moved there, but I want to know the bottom line, and apparently there are no teachers that are being cut. Is that correct?
There are no teachers being cut.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Rossi?
Yeah, that was basically my concern too, losing those 23 positions, significant amount. I can't do math anymore tonight. Yeah, and I didn't know also if these were the positions that the positive behavioral reinforcement teachers who were like 4 hours a day. I didn't know if these were those positions or are they classroom teachers, which looks like they're under the classroom teachers. So, yes, thank you.
Mr. Bahu?
Lines 132 and 133, technology education teacher. Are those classes not getting filled so that, we are reducing the amount of teachers by 8 to 7? What would be the reason that we?
Mr. Bahu, you're referring to lines 132 and 133?
Yeah, we'll just take it one line at a time. How about 132?
So in both cases, those are decisions made at schools. So a school has chosen to reuse a technology teacher position or an instructional technology position. I know, for example, a school where one of those positions has been now housed in the library. Since there's no library teacher in that school, the library is going to be run by the technology specialist as a technology hub. But the lines you're referring to in line 132, there's one teacher less in the school's budgets than there was last year. In line 133, one teacher less as well.
Okay, and then we're adding three physical education, health teachers?
Can you point to a line, please?
Sure, line 134, my mistake.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Great, last question. Well, there's 3 questions attached to it. Looks like we have on lines 142, 143, and 144. There was $950,000 that we used this year based on early childhood, miscellaneous stipends, and then contractual increases. Did we not have contractual increases this year? Or was that just baked right into the budget based on the 4%? Or the
That's correct.
3.5%? So there's no need for a line item there, correct?
That's correct. So last year, we made a provision, we were in negotiations, and we provided for the contract negotiations to be honored with the increases. This year, we know what the figures are, we know what the percent increases are, and they've been built in.
In the early childhood expansion.
Yes, so that was, I believe, not a position, but it was a anticipated growth in our early childhood programming that we were unable to meet. We don't have additional space, we don't have additional place to grow the program.
So we're not trying to grow the program in FY25, FY26, but we do have some state funding that is offered to us, is it not?
Let me have Dr. Pinto elaborate, please.
So thanks, Mr. Bahu. On the early childhood expansion, we did make a provision to allocate a little bit elsewhere. We did break out the positions into, yes, there were some positions, some supplies and contracted services, and some savings. So we kept a little bucket to allocate towards expansion and then broke out the rest.
So we're still looking to expand early childhood, but we're just not doing it in this upcoming school year. Is that correct?
We know that there's a need, and we planned for a small expansion.
Okay, thank you.
That's a quick question, maybe you answered this already, but 131, the content literacy one, are those positions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, they're positions.
So we added 1 position,
That's correct.
and then it went up $229,000?
Dr. Pinto?
So this one includes multiple increases, is 3.5 this year, 3.5 next year, and includes step and column increases as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Artie? Ms. Martin?
Thanks. I'm wondering if we could just get an understanding about the schools, the different cuts coming from the schools. And I know this is your tier 1, the first ones we'd be bringing back, assuming we do get the funding we need. But how were schools told to come up with their cuts? Because there's quite a bit of diversity. I mean, some of it wouldn't seem like it's just based on the size of the school, but was it that? A per student, like you need to cut this amount? And what was that based on?
So this was during the week when we learned about the cut. We brought all the principals to central office and we discussed with them the predicament that we were in. We discussed various options. I think principals left that day with 3 options to choose from around how to make reductions. One of them involved, I think two of them involved like proportionate cuts, like by pupil. So if you had 500 students, up to 500 students, reduction of such an amount. If you had more than that, a reduction of such an amount. One of the other options I think was based on the overall school allocated amount. So for example, if a school was allocated $6 million for all their staff, they reduced a certain amount. If a school had a budget of $8 million, they also reduced sort of a proportionate amount. Principals were given options. They went back to their school site councils and their schools and they made some choices. There was a form that they would fill out to report back to us and say, here, in other words, each individual school was able to make their own choice about what they felt that they could reduce.
In terms of the amount as well.
In terms of the amount and in term, well, no, we didn't give them the choice of saying, we'll cut $1,000 and someone else can cut, 5,000. They were given a band to work with, and they reported back to us what they wanted to, not that they wanted to reduce, but what the cuts that they would offer, and these are reflected on that page.
Okay. Trying to understand that.
Thank you very much. I just had a question on a couple of the grant positions, and I haven't noticed this until this point, but you can correct me. So neither of those are showing any increase? I'm sorry, and I should give you the lines. 140, 141, both paid for out of grant funds, but they're not showing the 3.5.
This one's the big grant managed by the city. These positions are paid for with PEG funds that come through the city.
But wouldn't their salaries go up like everybody else's?
I believe they gave us a dollar allocation. I'm still trying to unravel that, quite honestly, Ms. Martin. I've been trying to get to the correct dollar amount that the city brings in for PEG, and then how it's allocated to the schools, and then what our share, how they arrived at the share. So we're having conversations are ongoing on that front. So all I know is what they've allocated us right now. And so we made the budget arrangement on the amount that's been allocated to us.
But I mean, these are existing staff who would be expected, I mean, they're unaffiliated, they would have to be included in the unaffiliated agreement, right? That they would get the percentage increase that every other staff person got? I don't know if it's just these two or...
So Ms. Martin, I'm just going to look and see who that person is right now, okay?
Ms. Martin, I think your point is accurate, right? And so we may need to reflect an increase for those positions. Thank you.
Again, I'm more concerned if it's happening in other places.
Right.
But something to pay attention to. Thank you.
Motion's been made and seconded. I don't think there have been any cuts or switchovers. So.
No. Roll call?
Yep, please.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes, Mr. Delay.
Yes. We'll wait, okay.
On similar issues, line 138, the increase, the decrease is that correct? When you expect the increase, but instead you see the decrease.
So that's correct. Half their salaries are paid for by the federal government, and this is based on actuals. So there's a new teacher, a lower cost for them.
Okay, thank you.
Roll call.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi? Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
7 yeas.
Page, let's see here, where are we now? 19, medical therapeutic services. Need a motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the bottom line figure of $36,579,611 by Mr. Rossi, second by Ms. Doherty. Any questions or comments?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, again, just trying to honor the wishes that we review the page with you before you comment. I notice on this page, line 154, building-based subs. So these were common positions during ESSER times. Schools kept 3 of those positions somewhere across the district last year. Just 2 of them remain. And so that is reflected in a reduction from 3 of those positions to 2. There's also a reduction in line 160. Paraprofessionals for EL students reduced from 28 to 25. That, I believe, reflects some of the ones on that summary page with reductions offered by schools.
Can I just ask you a quick question about that?
Sure.
So on School Spring, there's 40 open para jobs
Correct.
posted.
So one of the reasons why paraprofessionals was like a popular option for reduction was that we hire about 40 new paraprofessionals every year. And so we anticipated that if paras positions were cut, that nobody would lose a job. So each summer we seek 40 new paraprofessionals, and I think principals were swayed by that argument in making the decision to cut paraprofessional positions, meaning that that person will likely bump into a different position because there's so many vacancies.
I'm confused. All right, so you have a number of paras that are being cut on the school sites.
That's right.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I count 16 paras.
That's correct.
So they're going to lose their position, but then you're going to hire 40 more?
So the positions that if a position is cut, Mr. Mayor, and somebody's in that position will go away, so they can no longer occupy it, but there'll be an opening elsewhere that that person can go to. If we have 40 openings, it's likely that we'll be able to place all the paraprofessionals whose position is being cut. We'll have openings elsewhere to put them in. That was part of our
So
thing.
they're not going to lose their job then. I mean, you have here $1.7 million in cuts, but you tell me that all these people that may lose their job are going to get one.
So that, yes, Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Superintendent, I'm very disappointed in that because
So, Mr. Mayor, I think-
we had a big issue about this.
Mr. Mayor, I think there's a misunderstanding. That if the positions are being cut, we are losing those services, and literally the position is being cut. It's not fuzzy math. Literally, we're reducing the positions. It's helpful. So, for example, last year I explained to the school committee, and something similar this year, oftentimes when we're making reductions and we're reducing positions, we might look at a vacant position first. These positions that are being reduced are not vacant positions. They're real people in real positions.
So if the paraprofessional from Moody School loses their job tomorrow at $38,999, they can apply for a job on School Spring tomorrow, next week?
They might not even have to apply. They might be placed in a new job. We celebrate that, Mr. Mayor. We think it's a good thing that if we reduce, we still lose positions overall.
In my opinion, that's fuzzy numbers. But any other comments from the committee? Ms. Martin?
I would say on that one, could you give us the number? I mean, if we have 40 openings right now, have we tracked with 40 openings over the course of the school year? Like, have we been functioning at a deficit of 40 paraprofessionals over the course of the year, or did this happen last week?
I think I'm going to refer to Dr. Hall. Consistently, each summer in recent years, we've sought about 40. One year, I remember, it was 44, but somewhere in that region of paraprofessionals. If the positions aren't open right now, it still makes sense for us to advertise so that we have a bank of people to hire from. They're very hard to find. Would you like me to refer to Dr. Hall?
Yep.
Dr. Hall, please.
So the superintendent's accurate. Every summer we do hire anywhere between 40 to 50 paraprofessionals, but we also follow the compendium process for paraprofessionals. So a lot of paraprofessionals might have been hired in September or October, for example, so they're automatically designated as long-term subs. So on Compendium 1, those positions have to be advertised, and a new application process happens, and that goes through all 4 compendiums. So correct, right now, probably Compendium 1 and soon to be Compendium 2 para positions are posted. They haven't been finalized for hire, but the superintendent's accurate this summer. We always have job fairs where we do place 35 to 40 paraprofessionals, likely in August. So it's accurate. If a paraprofessional now is told your position doesn't exist next year's budget, under the contract, they'd be displaced, and then they could pick from a position that went on the compendium. So when he said we'd place them, they actually get their selection of open positions pursuant to the procedures in the contract.
So over the course of the year, would you say if you're starting in September, and I'm just going to use, what is this, 225, 225 started the school year with us last year. As we come to the end of the school year, and we're not even at the end, but here in May, close, we've got 40 open positions. Are those 40 open positions that are current, or are they 40 open positions we're anticipating for next year, for next September?
They'd be anticipated for next year. So at any given time during the year, we might have 5 to 10.
That was my question. Okay,
Position.
thank you. Thank you very much.
So I guess the more important question would say is, so these paras that could be let go, are they being assisted by the principals or assistant principals to say, you will not lose your job or you go somewhere else?
They should, Mayor, so the superintendent directed that all the principals talk to the personnel that potentially could be impacted if the school committee approved the recommended budget, so they'd have notice in advance. And of course, we do have para evaluations now, which the committee mandated a few years ago. So we have great information on who may be great fits and potential opening positions in other buildings. So those employees are being assisted to find potential positions if the committee approves those cuts, and I'm confident most of them would find other positions if they wanted to go to those schools.
This is the first time I'm hearing about it, so it's disingenuous at best that we're going through this. Mrs. Conway?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a little confused on that. It was my understanding that there were not going to be any cuts with paras, period. That nobody was going to be losing their job, period. That's what now it's almost like a shell game. Well, it depends over here and there.
Excuse me. This document has a summary so that all this is listed in the budget book and you don't have to find it. It's a summary of all the positions that are up for reduction. It includes, bottom left-hand side, each position in each school, and includes the paraprofessional positions that are being reduced.
I mean, I think we made it perfectly clear that we didn't want to see the classroom put in harm's way.
Agreed.
By getting rid of teachers or paras and tutors, correct?
Agreed.
Okay. But now it seems as though there will be potentially some paras that won't have their job. Is that correct?
I believe it's just, I'll let the superintendent answer that, but I think it's just the opposite.
I'm sorry?
I think it's just the opposite.
Okay.
See, if we move to cut these 16 tonight, right, they're going to apply tomorrow on school spring and behind, so I'm,
Right, so let me take one more crack at this, please.
it's just unbelievable. Go ahead.
It's offered right here that there are reductions in schools, including reductions in paraprofessional positions. I didn't count them, but there's 53 positions overall. It's accurate, and what we've described and explained is accurate. Those positions are up for reduction, including paraprofessional positions. I'm not able to read it right now, but it's right in front of you.
Yeah, I can't read that from here, no.
You have it in front of you, Mr. Conway.
No.
One of the reasons, one of the possibilities, if a paraprofessional, a person in that job, if their position is reduced, this would also happen if there were teacher cuts, which there are none. That person is entitled to move to an open position. So I think there's bad news. We're cutting positions. The silver lining is that the people in those positions will likely be able to be accommodated in a different school or in a different position. I hope that's clear. Ms. Doherty?
Ms. Doherty, good.
I'd also like to point out that it's great. We can keep the person employed in the district. They might move to a different school. We are still functioning with less paras.
That's right.
That is the bottom line.
That's right.
And I also would like to point out that this is the tier 1. It's 1.7 million in cuts that we don't want to do. This is what we're looking at if we can't get the city to step up and pay their fair share for educating our students. So these cuts, I would be fighting tooth and nail that we don't have to make them. Because even though the person could step into another role, we are still going to be without that number of paras in the classroom.
Correct.
And while I have the mic, I have a question. on position 145. I'm not, is this a brand-new special ed family advocate? I guess we had it last year as a grant position. Can you tell me what that position is?
Sure. Dr. Pinto?
So we currently have two that are both paid from local. They're hired through a switch in positions. One used to be a parent-family liaison, and reduced that by one. And yes, that's it. One used to be a parent-family liaison in line 404.
She's just talking about here, one position, one position.
Ms. Doherty,
Sorry, Ms. Doherty.
was your question answered?
I don't really understand the position, what the role, and I don't expect,
Is the question, what's the role of the special ed family advocate?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
right.
So that position exists in the special ed office. Family or parents that have issues with their child's servicing and so on, it's a person that they can refer to who basically takes parent complaints and parent issues.
It's a district-wide position.
It is.
And I notice in many of those 145, 146, all those first ones listed under medical therapeutic services, we have a number of increases in staffing, and I'm assuming that's based on student need?
That's right. Yes, Ms. Doherty.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have anything to add? Ms. Martin?
I just had one last, I would like to say that I think that, so we're looking at this reduction of 16 paras. Personally, I would prefer to put those in those positions into, I guess, abeyance, so that we can go back. I think the key point, and I think my colleague, Ms. Doherty, had made it, and I know others have felt the same way, is that regardless of where the actual staff are moving, we're talking about a loss of capacity. And I think that, and I'll only speak for myself, but I do think that I have long recognized that, paraprofessionals in our district, are, they have a huge impact on what's happening in the everyday classroom. They are in terms of the investment we make in them, we have always wanted to see those numbers increase, those salary numbers increase, because we recognize the value we get from that position. But I think, for myself, I would like to make a motion that we take those 16 para positions and move them into abeyance so that we can revisit this as budget numbers become more firmly into focus. Before we do that, though, I have one other question. And that was just looking at the tutor number. And I also recognize the value we get from tutors and recognizing that there's no real, I guess, kind of FTE equivalent in that. So I just kind of wanting to be able to look at how that number has jumped up. Like we're looking at this, I'm looking at like 110. I'm just trying to find the lines, let's see.
Yep, that's line 164 you're talking about.
Yep.
So 164, 165, 166, there have been some changes. Line 166, so to start with line 164, we're now able to take that on the title grant, so it's Title I, based on student needs and as articulated by principals. We weren't able to do that last year, so that's 164.
Okay.
The next line, 165, that is now Title III, so that was based on student needs and articulated by principals, so we were able to take that onto a title grant as well. And line 166, school-funded tutors 18 hours a week. Some of them have shifted up to line 164 as well.
Okay.
So that's why the
balances
reduction.
out. Okay, thank you for answering the question. I'd make that my motion regarding the paraprofessionals, moving them to the abeyance.
Second
Thank
by
you.
Mr. Conway. Just a quick point. So there's 15, 16 paras here that we're looking to cut, but we're going to hire 51 this summer. Is that correct? I understand that, but yeah.
I think it's a high turnover role, so you're constantly hiring people because it's not,
But again,
it's a lot of work
16 on
for
one
not
end,
a huge
50 on
amount
the
of
other,
money.
so
It comes down to the classroom.
Call it what you
We
want.
want to have as many paras in the classroom as we can, and we don't want to lose
Hire
any
40 more next year. I mean,
teachers in the classroom. Well, it's a constant cycle of advertising for the 40 in anticipation that 40 may leave.
tighten your belt sooner or later. Roll call, Madam Clerk. I'm sorry?
We don't have a dollar amount.
No.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi? Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
7 yeas.
A quick question, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
162, there's a reduction of about $650,000. And, it's not a position, I just wonder what it is. What is it? Is it, that's not an after-dark program, is it? Or?
So in this line, we had a couple of salaries that we were able to move to the local budget, and then we had to reduce by 400K, and we did move some dollars to the out-of-district tuition line.
162, yeah.
Mr. Lay, was your question answered?
No, I do not understand. I'm so sorry, Mr.
Let's go back. Are you talking about line 162? May I ask, are we talking about the high school? Sure. So my understanding with line 162 is that that program, I want my colleagues to listen in to make sure I'm giving accurate information. That was allotted by the school committee to provide for middle schoolers to receive after-school programming at Lowell High School. Some of you know about the band program where students go to after-school band at the high school. I believe that there were additional programs to be run out of that Twilight funds in the arts. Am I giving the, excuse me, so I am confusing it. Allow, please, Ms. Dupont to explain.
Hi, Mr. Lay. Thank you for the question. So the Twilight program is to supplement our 21st century. We had the 21st Century Grant for so many years, and it grew into this really great after-school program. So with the ESSER funding, our hope was to expand our after-school programming to all of our students in all of our schools, which we were successful in doing, and it was our goal to sustain that as we come out of the fiscal cliff with ESSER. So last year, 1.6 was allocated to fund the Twilight program in an attempt to help keep that sustainable. 2 of the full-time salaries tied to that program, so the coordinator of special programs and the admin assistant that assists with the processing of the financials and helping liaise between the schools and central office, have been moved to the central office, or to the general fund line rather. They're in the positions a little higher. And then we reduced the amount by 400,000 to $1 million flat, thinking that would be enough to be able to sustain the programs that we've been able to build out, while also tapping into some of the grant revenues that we expect to receive next year. Does that answer?
So, none of we don't have any grant listed here on?
No, we did not include, I did not include the 21st century numbers.
Okay. Thank you.
So let me go expand on that. So the 21st century numbers, Ms. Dupont, are we expecting some grants to come towards the Twilight program?
Yes, so the 21st century schools, we actually cannot use that money for any schools that aren't specifically listed in those accounts. So the Twilight funding is meant to supplement the schools who do not receive the benefit of 21st century. So that way we can maintain programs for all of our students.
So how many students would be affected here? It seems like, we're reducing it by $400,000, and it's in the after-school program. It also helps fund, I believe, the Knowledge Bowl and such like that, which is a separate line item. I see it in the budget, but it's sort of something that's that students can go to after school.
Yep, so we actually don't, we anticipate being able to provide the services that we currently have in place. When we look at the budget right now, we still have enough to get us to the end of the year. We've worked hand in hand with the special programs coordinator and the coordinator of curriculum to get to this $1 million number.
Okay.
I would defer to them on details.
Sure. Realistically, I'd like to maybe make sure that we're going to get those grants, the 21st century grants. So I'd like, to put this in suspense, just to ensure that we still have the program available. And
Right,
yes,
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
7 yeas.
So we still have the balance of section 19, I'm sorry, page 19. Any other comments or questions before we take a roll call? Mr. Bahu?
last question, line 166. Did we discuss the 18-hour-week tutors that we're looking to cut by 17? Has anybody discussed that?
Mr. Bahu, yes, we did. They moved up to 164 in part. Line 164.
They moved up to line 164, and we took a vote on that, so we're, okay, no tutors are being cut. Great, okay, terrific, thank you.
So no tools are being cut? So no tools are being cut?
There are tutors.
I beg pardon. So there are two questions. I think Mr. Bow's question, there are some tutors being cut. Again, for summary and for simplicity, they're on that page, which schools and which tutors. There are some tutor positions being cut. Mr. Mayor?
We'll hire him back next week, just like the Paris.
That's correct.
Based on these line items, I'm not seeing seeing the tutors that have 48 FTE positions, and then it's being lowered, reduced to 30.7. Is that the line item I'm supposed to be looking at?
So the reduction, I'm sorry, Mr. Bahu, the reduction is in part, I'm sorry, I'll add some clarification. The reduction is in part on line 166.
Okay, and that's exactly what I'm referring to.
Yeah,
So there is a
that's the
reduction.
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to put in a motion to put this into suspense so that we are not cutting any tutors at this time.
So, thank you, Mr. Bahu. I understand the intention, and we can comply with that. I think what we need to do is, we're making a distinction tonight between suspense account and abeyance, and I think abeyance is a term the committee's been using for positions that you want to keep track of, so you want not to cut the tutors. So I think we've agreed that we'll put them in abeyance. We can't put them in suspense.
That's fine. They're in abeyance. That's all I ask.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Motion by Mr. Bahu for two positions in abeyance, seconded by Ms. Doherty. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yeah.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty? Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin? Mayor Rourke? 7 yeas.
Yes. Any other questions on page 19 before we take a vote to approve the balance? And Ms. Dupont, you can let the clerk know what the balance is at some point in time tomorrow. So we got a lot of cuts. Yeah. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Rourke?
Yes.
7 yeas.
So at the rate we're going, we'll be here till about 6 in the morning. So do we want to come back on another day?
Yes, please.
Should we decide now, so we won't have to do emails and phone calls back and forth?
Come back next Wednesday.
Next week, right?
I thought it was
Wednesday.
on Saturday, right?
No,
Okay, good.
Wednesday. And I would ask if we could get more information, the
Understood.
information we asked for.
Of course.
It could be helpful.
Can I clarify, please, if we're saying that we're going to come back next Wednesday, that's also the night of a regular school committee meeting? Are we saying we're going to have the regular meeting and the budget hearing during that time, or is it separate?
So we have,
I would say a light meeting.
Yeah.
So we can focus on the budget.
got about 3
If there's something really urgent that we need to move
Understood.
on.
We can do that.
Right?
keep the motions down too, would be great. So we'll, not adjourn, but
So the budget meeting would be after the regularly scheduled school committee meeting?
As I understand it, Mr. Bahu, yes, that we'll try to have a light agenda for next Wednesday's regular meeting.
Very
and that
light.
the budget hearing will then continue from there.
Okay, great, because we're meeting with the students at about 5:45, if I remember.
That's correct. It happens that next week is one of the dates where we have the student advisory.
And could we be specific on the information we're expecting next Wednesday?
Just ask, you'll have to ask them. Do you want to go through it?
Yes, I do want to go through it.
So-
What about the step through it, so I'll clear that.
Mr. Mayor and school committee members, may I ask, please, there's been a series of requests, and Ms. Doherty has just restated the desire that you have all the information you were looking for. Would it help if we give you a rundown of our notes? In other words, what we understand to be your requests. Can we do that, please? So we account to you about what we're going to come back with. Okay, Dr. Pinto, please.
So I have a few items. The first one was the tiered restoration, right? So we were looking for dollar amounts for the tiers. Okay, so that's one. Two is from the city. So it's what they're going to do with the $4 million in cash, and how they're going to spend it, and then what they're going to do with the maintenance of effort. They're accounting for the $58 million in maintenance of effort.
And then any information that you can provide us about maintenance of effort, I think would be helpful. I mean, finding out tonight that it hasn't been negotiated since 2007. Like, other than snow plowing, I'm really not sure what they're charging off. And what have been the amounts?
If we're trying to get through our budget season, it may be sensible to do that as a separate item at a different time. I don't know that we'll have enough information for next week anyway, and it seems like it might be sensible to try and continue the budget hearing.
You're not on mic. Any information you could provide is going to be helpful, because the city is saying to us, instead of giving you 14 million, we're only going to give you 10, and we're going to put 4 million more into maintenance of effort, and another 4 million that the state is requiring the increase. So I need to see what that maintenance of effort is going to look like.
Okay.
I can't, it's impossible to me how they could come up with that much money in maintenance of effort.
Understood.
So any information you can provide without breaking your back on it, I get it.
Thank you.
But we should know what this is.
I also received a request on the dollar amount contributed towards facilities.
That,
By
I
the
think,
school
is very
department?
important. What have we spent out of our budget towards facilities?
The other request I received was to which city department is being cut by 25% from Ms. Martin, is that correct? Or was that was you, Ms. Doherty?
Yes. Is there any other city department that's looking at 25% reduction in cash? That is the only way we can buy positions, is with the cash contribution. The maintenance of effort doesn't do that.
That's correct. So that's a summary of the requests that I have. Is there anything further?
Do you want to provide backup on those technology positions? Maybe
Yes,
give us a little more detail of what
We
you're
also
buying
said we'd
for all that
provide
money.
clarity on technology budget items, yes.
I'm sorry, say that?
Software and the hardware, correct?
Right, the software and the hardware, 61 and 62, or whatever those numbers were. And if we didn't put in enough last year and we're playing catch-up, I mean, I can understand that. Obviously, it's not the way we want to go, but to just give us some justification for such a large increase on those numbers.
And there was further clarification on the 5-year ads, right? Positions added over the last 5 years.
That, I think, is also very important. And I think we want to look at, what those titles were. Because if we added, 20 social workers and the mental health, all those things were justified, needed. And those needs haven't gone away.
Mr. Mayor, I think we have it. Thank you.
Could we have that, the 5-year ad sheet with our school committee agenda this week? Could you just add it in so that we can
So we were
look at
just,
it?
I don't think so, Mr. Bahu. We were just estimating about the amount of time to produce this. It happens that Dr. Pinto is meant to be at a conference tonight on Cape Cod and for the next 2 days. So when we booked this meeting, Dr. Pinto delayed his departure until after this meeting. So you know, it will be worked on early next week.
Okay,
at the
we'll have it next week.
soonest.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.